Oh, your babe.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, December 11th, 2014, and time for your Gitmo Nation Media Assassination, episode 677.
This is No Agenda.
Anticipating Stormageddon here in FEMA Region 6 in the capital of the Drone Star State, Austin, Texas. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
Yeah, screw that. From northern Silicon Valley, where we're having the storm of the century, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
It doesn't happen often, but you actually really clipped your own mic there.
I did?
Yeah. I'm looking at my board going, I can't help this. It's just a little.
Want to start over?
No. I'll tell you what. Why don't we... John! Hello, John. This is Adam here in the studio. What's it looking like, John? What are you learning?
The hair's blowing off. My wig blew down the field. I don't know what to do. I'm holding on for dear life. I'm holding on to this telephone pole.
Stormageddon 2014.
What are you guys having a storm for? We have all the storms on the West Coast.
No, we're supposed to get the remnants of your storm.
You don't want the remnants.
It's funny. I swear to you, I saw a prediction last week that said we were going to have this warm snap all over the country. I forgot to mention it on the show. I put it in the show notes 3 or 4 shows ago.
When this thing, the one that's hitting us, and I guess it hit the Pacific Northwest, and that typically dribbles down to Denver. Yeah. This was like the world's worst wind and rainstorm. It was overnight. I mean, it ripped off a bunch of the pieces of the house.
Wait a minute. What pieces of the house?
I have this. This is what's really kind of bothersome. As I look out the main window here, a piece of flashing from the roof.
It's flapping around?
Snapped off and hanging.
Wow. By
a thread going back and forth and back and forth. And if you know what the flashing looks like, you can imagine if it snaps off, which it should do eventually from metal fatigue, it will snap off and then catch the wind and go flying and probably go right through somebody's window and impale somebody.
No.
And her head is gone.
That's what we'll have.
Meanwhile, it's hanging here, and I'm looking at it. Could have gone right through this window here. But it's such a long piece that's hanging that it actually, as it comes to slam toward the window, it hits the house and blocks it from going into the window. So that, and then we had just a big mess, just generally speaking, had to bring a lot of stuff inside. And we're waiting for some trees to fall. There's one tree up the hill that looks like it should go. But there's flooding. It's just a mess.
Now, you have been in this location for many years, yes?
Yes, long time.
And have you ever witnessed this severity of storm?
Not for such an extended period. We'd get a windstorm that would last. And no, this is probably the windiest.
Really?
And yeah.
And do you attribute this to climate change made by men?
Yeah. No, I attribute it to the cycle that we have for drought. And we have, in fact, Governor Brown used to talk about the drought cycle. We have a drought for 2 years. Oh, we're all going to die because of global warming. And now we got nothing but rain. I mean, this is going to be 4 to 8 inches. And this will fill up all the reservoirs like instantly, and then it's going to, it's going to go on for another day.
You could
the wind part. The worst part was last night.
You could back off another dog biscuit on your mic. I don't know if something changed, but you're clipping. You're clipping, man.
No, let me see. What
you're clipping, bro. Don't be clipping, man. I'll give everyone something to listen to while you're at that, because they can really feel what it's like.
Does it sound better?
Well, yeah. Just when you get excited.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
well, I think I'm deaf because of the noise last night.
This is surprising. Of course, I'm in Texas. Almost zero coverage of this storm. I know because I follow space weather and all kinds of different things to see what's going on. I'm interested in the weather, and of course, it's on the Weather Channel. But nothing. It's just no one's talking about this outside.
No,
of
you stunned me.
What, did I know about it? You didn't know about it, really?
I didn't know about your storm.
No, this is your storm. We don't have it. We have rain.
Storm. Oh no, this is big news. Well, at least it is out here.
Yeah, and that's
it'll be big news when it turns into a huge snow pile as it plows through the country.
Right.
I mean, it'll fill up the resorts are from the storm we had a week ago. The ski resorts are all full with snow.
Right.
And so they don't have to blow phony snow anymore. And now this will just pack it. So this will be there'll be snow and for the whole, like last year they were lucky to get any snow days in because of the whole thing. The schools are closed.
Yes. I saw Snow day. And people are lining up at the gas stations. This is what we do in America. We go get gas.
In fact, I went shopping yesterday, and everything was packed. And I realized it's because they're all getting,
Let's get some gas
down for the big storm.
Yeah. How long is it supposed to last?
It's probably about a couple more days.
Okay, well,
there'll be another one coming. I mean, you can look at the satellites. There's just going to be a series of these, which again will soon have to be diverting water. Oh, and then just as the storm hits, they jacked up the price of water because of the drought.
Yeah.
It's a scam.
Yeah, it's funny.
By the way, I want to get to the big story right off because I think it's really important and it's something we got to talk about immediately because I think it's the big news, the biggest of the biggest news stories to hit.
Yeah. All right. This, of course. Now I'm looking at your clip list and thinking, I know what it's not. I'm trying to guess, to anticipate what it's going to be.
Yeah. LeBron James touched.
Yeah.
Kate.
All right.
In a photo op.
You don't have a clip of that.
The royal couple. I should have a clip, but it's just the royal couple.
Yes.
Took in a basketball game for the first time in their life in Brooklyn, of all places, and just to see LeBron James. And then they posed with a photo op, and he unknowingly
put his arm around her.
And now it's a scandal.
Yes. Wow. Okay. Sure. Bigs. Yeah. I'm so baffled. This whole, I cannot get over. The older I get, the less I can really go along with this royalty thing. And it's just the two people, and we have to have a special, they're like dignitaries. They're not. I don't know. It's I really just can't care.
No, you don't care.
No,
you're not a royalist. If you were a royalist, you'd understand.
Yeah. I have, of course, what is actually the big story of the day, and I have to congratulate you as you came very close to predicting what this was all about. You had most of it right, but well, here's the story.
At least 16 women have accused Bill Cosby of sexual assault, and in many cases, the stories are very similar. The women claim the comedian gave them pills that knocked them unconscious. One woman, Dr. Charlotte Laws, claims her longtime friend had a long-running affair with Cosby in the early 80s and was still drugged by him, even though they were already in a consensual sexual relationship. Laws thinks Cosby could be a somnophiliac.
A somnophiliac. Well, that sounds a lot better than necrophiliac because women aren't dead and we don't know of him ever having sex with a dead person. And technically, I guess that that would be it. I never knew that was such a thing, but I can. Yeah.
Apparently there is such a condition, a somnophiliac.
I believe it.
Yeah.
That is probably, I would believe that's what was going on here. Because like we said, there's no reason for him to go out of so far out of his way to get sex when you're a.
Yeah. Well, we don't really have to get into it. I just thought it was interesting that, I don't want to get into it. No, I thought you came. Let's not get into anything Cosby's been into. It's not a good idea.
Yeah, no, I nailed it.
Yes, you did pretty much. I'll give you props for nailing it.
I'll give you that.
Well, you sent out a newsletter. And when I read your newsletter, as I always do, and notice I didn't say good to go this time. I said, looking good.
I know you're waiting to say good to go.
I don't,
And now there's so many mistakes in that newsletter as I did it.
Oh, really?
Oh, God.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I wasn't feeling very well yesterday. I was on the couch most of the day. Oh,
what I do before I send the newsletter out is I mail it to myself. And I had edited it while I'm putting it together, and then I mail it to myself because reading it off the screen as an email is almost like a new thing, so I can kind of read it with fresh eyes.
Right.
And holy crap!
Oh, I'm so sorry. I usually catch stuff, but I didn't catch anything yesterday.
Yeah, and then
I think it was because the content was very interesting to me, and although we really never ever do any preparatory work together. And we have no idea really what we're showing up with for each show. And we'll talk about this in our Christmas episode, which has been produced for your enjoyment coming up on Christmas. when sometimes you'll send a newsletter out like this, and it's filled with teases. Hey, this is what we're going to be doing, and this is the topic. And to me, it's obvious you've got this ready to go deconstruction wise, and I'm excited about what you're going to bring to us.
Well, I was a little overwhelmed. I have my little clip machine, and I'm getting my last clips yesterday, and I look at the number, it says 60.
60?
Yes, and a lot of them are long because I have the whole...
That's clip abuse, man. You can't be doing that.
I didn't like the idea, and so when I pared them down, I lost a lot of stuff I'd like to have talked about. I'm going to put it in later shows because there's a lot of very interesting stories. I mean, there are stories that I picked up listening to the congressional hearings on the torture report. Mm-hmm. But what I mentioned in the newsletter for people who don't decide not to take the newsletter, which is free because they think I don't know why they don't like it. Whatever the case, it was so apparent to me, and I was so disappointed. I was disappointed in two things. One, the lack of response that we got for the last show in terms of donations to this show. Yeah. Very poor. Just horrible. And I think a lot of people are drifting away because I think the mainstream media's lure is much better. But what really got to me was...
Say that again? You think the mainstream media's lure is much better?
Suck people back in, because that's why we get a lot of stuff kicked back at us.
Ah, okay.
You ever noticed this? So one of the things I noticed was with actually two exceptions. I have to go to the desk and grab my notes on the other desk.
Yes, go to the news desk, John.
But I'll just.
Oh, you go to the news desk. Go ahead.
What are you going to do?
I'll tell you. You go to the news desk. I'll play a jingle. You ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
I mean, what do you think, Wolf Blitzer?
That's my new one. That's the only question we need to ask.
Think, Wolf Blitzer.
Hold on.
All right.
What do you think, Wolf Blitzer?
What do you think, Wolf Blitzer? All right.
What I noticed was everybody except very few people, and the two that I could positively identify that weren't in the CIA's pocket or buddies with some of these old CIA hacks, because of the number, everybody was spewing a pretty well-defined list of talking points. Everybody. MSNBC and Fox were on the same side.
Yeah, which kind of solidifies our theory, or my theory, that they're run by the same people, namely Democrats.
There's that.
But before you move anything at all, I would just something that'll tickle you. Yesterday, the president came out with a proclamation just to throw everything on top of it. Did you know that yesterday he proclaimed the week beginning December 10th, 2014, which doesn't make sense to me. The week doesn't start on a Wednesday. Does it?
No, that's very strange.
By presidential proclamation, I got to read this. He says it's Human Rights Day, and this starts Human Rights Week
on Wednesday.
Yeah, on the same day that this report comes out. Come on.
Well, there's something fishy about Obama's position in this whole thing, because he was, according to everybody that's on the committee, was a roadblock.
And I want to tell our producers out there who are listening, this, of course, is a very U.S. Gitmo Nation-centric topic. Pay attention. This can happen in your part of the world if it isn't already.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If it isn't already.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I'm watching all these shows, and everybody is doing the same. They're talking from the same sheet. It's just so obvious. They all say the same things. They all do the same. The worst, of course, is Fox.
Yeah.
Because they go over the top with many people on Fox literally saying, torture's good. I think these people deserve to be tortured. Including those poor 26 people that were in the group that had nothing to do with anything, and they were just tortured anyway. But they went on. I do have a Fox. It's kind of long, but it's worth listening to. This is a Fox medley, because I couldn't get, this is part of the 60 clips. I just took little chunks from every one of these millions of clips from Fox.
A Fox medley.
Bloodthirsty bastards.
Now, did you mix some house music to this medley?
No, if I had more time, I would have.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yeah, hit it.
Is it useful? Was it effective to use torture?
Well, to start with, I would just
stop.
Oh, sorry.
I did start off with the news hour. It's all the same. These people were all in, and this is they have a person, and then they have somebody responding. Usually a CIA guy.
And there were a couple. I mean, there were a lot of guys who came out who I hadn't seen either in a long time or ever. They were all out on the circuit. It was pretty fun to watch.
Is it useful? Was it effective to use torture?
Well, to start with, I would disagree with the term torture. But the enhanced interrogation program that we utilized on a handful of top terrorists absolutely, beyond any doubt, produced vital intelligence that helped keep America safe.
Give me an example.
Osama bin Laden.
Well, this makes no sense to me whatsoever, Megan. We're a nation at war. Look at why would we release it now? What did we have to gain? All of this has been debated. All of this has been settled. We understood all of that.
That it will put Americans here and abroad at risk. Here he is.
And tonight, Fox News confirming that the FBI and Homeland Security have sent a joint warning to law enforcement that the Senate report could in fact spark violence. Megan. On the allegation the CIA program was not effective, a former CIA officer with firsthand knowledge of the interrogations says 9/11 architect Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, one of 3 detainees waterboarded by the CIA, generated 2,000 intelligence reports.
Tonight, Americans at home and abroad are at greater risk than they were 24 hours ago. Tonight, Americans at home and abroad are at greater risk than they were 24 hours ago.
Our next guest says the release of this report amounts to nothing less than providing aid and comfort to the enemy in wartime. Fox News strategic analyst Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters is with me. Your reaction to all this, sir?
Disgust.
Same
disgust
here.
And more disgust. And you know, Sean, the very people that are flagellating the CIA today for doing what they approved it to do are going to be the first ones to cry intelligence failure when there's another attack. I mean, it's a messy world.
I think the enhanced interrogation techniques, I think they served their purpose. I think they made us safer. ISIS is beheading Americans. What's worse, that or Khalid Sheikh Mohammed getting some water splashed on his face, or someone else getting slapped, or hearing loud music, or kept awake for 100 hours?
Loud music and awake for 3 days. It's called law school preparing for the bar activity. Everything they did was sanctioned and put together in reports. There was no criminal prosecution from this. Do you understand that? It's now looking after and years and saying, you know, we don't like what you did. Well, why didn't you? Any of the senators were on this intelligence committee and were privy to this information. Why didn't you object then? And why are you doing it now?
It goes on and on and on with the same memes and the same and it's on all the channels we're doing.
But let's just state for a fact what has come out of this. It gives me no more pleasure than to hear the words rectal feeding and rectal hydration. I really, really think that is the funniest thing.
Did you get they actually had the recipe that went into the rectal feeding? Did you see that?
I mean, how come you
ground hummus, salad, kale,
which they call sloshing up? I mean, this report,
disgusting.
It was so funny to me that you know, anal water torture has been applied for centuries probably, but yet we have in our politically correct world. And I think it's actually rectal rehydration, which makes it even funnier than rectal hydration. Okay, so I have had a back and forth with Uncle Don. And I have been upgraded in Uncle Don's world.
Okay.
Yes.
By the way, I did have questions that I should have given to you to ask Uncle Don, which is what does he think?
Well, I have.
Of Hayden and Rodriguez.
Well, so first I'll give you his. The first thing he said is new subject. Being referred to as Uncle Don reminds me of a children's radio program of my early youth by that name. I'm very proud to be your uncle, but let's just drop the uncle bit. Now I call this an upgrade. I think he's taking me serious now.
Yeah. It's too late.
So I did not ask him specifically about. You want to hear what his general thoughts are?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So for those of you who are new to the program, look up Donald Gregg, and you'll see why he speaks of some authority. And it is my belief that he is such a good guy these days, certainly, that he would. That's why he's not asked on any mainstream media programming, because he actually speaks the truth. certainly when it comes to North Korea. So he says the central question in this case, funny how he used a lot of these memes we're always catching, that is not being dealt with. That question is, why was the CIA told to do what it was told to do, and who told them? That brings into focus people like the miserable Attorney General Alberto Gonzales, the lawyers like John Yoo, who fell over themselves legitimizing enhanced interrogation, giving legal cover to what CIA did. And by the way, whenever a guy's really in the CIA, they never say the CIA. You notice that? So
I notice it now.
Yeah, so he says giving legal cover to what CIA did. The central,
yes, like Ukraine.
Yes. The central and most painful part of this is that Bush 43 and Cheney, having failed to prevent 9/11 in the first place, lost faith in our ability to deal traditionally with the crisis they had largely caused themselves. That's the real rub of the issue. I think Obama wants to avoid that central point, but I think it's going to be hard for him to do. What do you think? He says.
Well, he didn't throw in all the classic memes that they're using, which is we're now in more danger than we were before. Our lives are at risk because of this report.
Oh, because I think he probably thinks that's bullcrap. That's not important to him.
He does. Most people seem that know anything think it's bullcrap, but they're pushing it like there's no tomorrow. And what's funny is that there's a number of self-contradictions in all of their own debates. I honestly don't believe it was the top PR guys at CIA that put the talking points together. I think it was a public relations group put together by Hayden, Goss,
yes. Definitely Hayden,
and Tenet.
Do you want to?
The three of them wrote that op-ed in the New York Times, which, if you read that op-ed, the talking points are all in there.
Right.
And the main one they keep pushing is, it did help, it did work, it did help, it did work. And they just keep saying it over and over. And so all the stooges that came in from, which is most of the people in the mainstream media, with the exception of two people I can identify, there may be more. And I never heard what Rachel had to say, so I don't know about her.
I didn't.
But I'll tell you, the other lesbian, Hayes, Christopher Hayes, that guy.
Now, why do you resort to name calling? This discredits the entire program.
It's a joke from the correspondence dinner. I give him full credit. He was not on board with the talking points.
Oh, really?
At all. In fact, I'm sure they're calling him.
Wow. Okay.
Talking to him to get him on board because he was brutal. And he had the best guy on. He had Colonel Wilkerson on. Okay, let's move right to that.
Yeah, all right, get to it.
Let's go to Colonel Wilkerson. Colonel Wilkerson was Colin Powell's chief of staff during this whole thing. And Wilkerson comes on as a guest, and he's not the normal Richard Engel coming on to apologize and say, well, it's unknowable. He uses the unknowable meme and all the rest of it. Everybody on all these channels. Let me just do one little quickie before that. There was one guy, that's why I had to rush to get the, this is actually kind of funny. He took over one of the shows. This guy, Ari Melber, A-R-I Melber. Ari Melber was never obviously read in or paid off or bought off, and he was a fly in MSNBC's ointment because he was a substitute, and they didn't know. I guess nobody knew that he wasn't.
Oh, yeah, no, I saw this guy, Ari. Ari is his name.
Yeah,
Ari, right. The nice looking Jewish boy, Ari.
Yeah, here he is.
Yeah, I've seen it. I saw this. Yeah, okay, good.
Okay, here he is jumping in on something that he shouldn't have said anything, but he jumps in, and this is the clip is the one guy on MSNBC.
Question here going forward is, what is the role of the CIA?
I'm sorry, am I playing the right one?
The one guy in MSNBC.
Well, there's no actual clip called "One Guy." There's
the one
interrupts. Guy. Oh, okay. You got to help me out with that, man. All right, here we go.
Sometimes in a time of war, you have to go out and do things that you wouldn't normally think were appropriate or right. But if they're going to protect you,
sometimes in the war you do war crimes. I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about war crimes under the Geneva Convention.
Well, but I think that they believe that they were justified because of the circumstances of the time. That is the argument they're making, and I think that's where this really is breaking down. Now, I do think most Republicans, at least publicly, right now.
Enough.
In fact, there was a roundtable discussion, and Ari, I think it was Ari's show, and Toure was on. You know, the music course.
Touré's all in with the memes
but he was they had the going to commercial break, and they have one of those shots where you see the whole group, and he's rolling his eyes, going, "This Ari didn't read his memo."
Yeah, Ari apparently didn't read his memo because he was adamant about the report. He read more than there were talking points given.
You know what's next for Ari? Podcasting.
Probably, poor bastard. He's out. So anyway, we have Chris Hayes, who obviously was never on it, because it was funny to watch the show before his, and they're all, well, you know, it was the time of the changing times, and it was 9/11 era, and we had to do what we had to do, and if it wasn't for this, we wouldn't have caught bin Laden, which, by the way, was 10 years after.
Yeah.
And it was also 4 years, three to 4 years after they stopped doing this interrogation. And then they can't catch bin Laden. And yeah, sure. So the bin Laden thing is bull crap. But let's listen to Wilkerson, who comes on to discuss this with Chris Hayes.
Joining me now, retired U.S. Army Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson. He was Chief of Staff for Secretary of State Colin Powell from 2002 to 2005. Your reaction to the reaction today, do you feel as if we've made progress as a nation in reckoning with this period, or are we back where we were 10 years ago?
I think the latter, Chris, because I don't think, even though this might bring a modicum of accountability to some of the people at the top, some of the people you've named, I don't think anything really will be done. So whatever punitive effect there is to it will be whitewashed, will not be accomplished. And as for lying, let me tell you, I've been watching it all day, Chris. I've been watching people like Phil Mudd and John McLaughlin, whom I spent so much time with I grew sick of them, getting Powell ready for his presentation at the United Nations. Phil Mudd, I remember him coming into the Waldorf Astoria hotel room where at 2 a.m. in the morning of that morning, 5 February, I was taking things out of Powell's presentation that connected al-Qaeda with Baghdad. And Phil was frantic trying to get it stuck back in, and even went and woke George Tenet up in his hotel and tried to get George Tenet to make me stop doing it. And then to hear Phil Mudd come on TV and talk about so calmly how competent and how wonderful this program was and how it worked and so forth, it almost made me sick to listen to that going on. These people lied in my presence. They lied to Condi Rice. They lied to Steve Hadley, Condi's deputy at the time. They lied to Rich Armitage, Powell's deputy. They lied to me. People like George Tenet, John McLaughlin, they lied about the mobile biological labs. They lied about connections with al-Qaeda. So for them to sit there and say that they didn't lie to the Senate Select Committee or to the House Committee, it's absolutely absurd.
Yeah, he's. This is the only guy on any of the shows I've seen that was there and not working for the agency or Cheney. And by the way, Wilkerson blames the whole thing. He says Cheney was the only one at the top that knew anything. But let's go to he does have a positive thing to say about the CIA, because there is a meme going on. Oh, this is a beating up, flagellating the CIA, but he has a kind of a different take on it, which I believe is a little more logical. And this is the Wilkerson take.
A recommendation, John? Recommendation. I want us both to try saying CIA instead of the CIA.
Yeah, no, I know.
No.
I don't work for this. I can do whatever I want.
Wow. You went right down the trap. You went from the CIA to no. I'm sorry. I'm just shut up.
Yeah, shut up.
Believe the CIA when the CIA says this is one-sided, this is bunk. Don't listen to this.
This is another disservice to the agency, Chris. There are a lot of good people at the agency. There are just as many people. I would submit if you could do a survey, there would be more people who are anxious to see the agency's name and these people who've done these sorts of things cleared out, anxious to see some sort of accountability, anxious to get their hands clean, to get the agency's hands cleaned, and to get on with business, to do the things that the CIA should do in the way that they should do them in conformance with the law when and if possible. This is not an agency that is out there, cowering in the dark, wondering, as McLaughlin and Tenet and others have said, if it has a future. This is a group of people who would like to do their duty to their country and to their mission, and they'd like to get this stuff off their hands.
Yeah, I agree with that. Totally agree.
Yeah.
which is what Don wants. He said, let's rip the Band-Aid off, get the Panetta report out, which is the CIA's version of this. Get that out, redact what you have to, but minimal. Do it and just get over it and move on.
I don't have a clip of this, but the redactions of the Feinstein report are apparently ludicrous, according to Jay Rockefeller. He says that he saw the unredacted versions. There's stuff that was taken out, including fake names. They were protecting names, so they actually put fake names in the report to protect names, and they redacted those.
Well, yeah,
and a bunch, just a lot of dumb stuff.
We have less than 600 pages from 6,000, so I'd call that a 90% redaction right there.
Right. Well, one of the senators believes that the whole report will eventually be released. Of course, in
25 years, it gets declassified. Eventually, it will be, yeah.
So Wilkerson, part 3, I thought was the best of the clips.
Internal CIA email from July 2003 noted the White House is extremely concerned Secretary Powell would blow his stack if he were to be briefed on what's been going on. You were working for Secretary Powell at that time. Your reaction to that?
I'm sure that's probably the case. I got to see him. I worked for him over 12 years, and I got to see him blow his stack worse than he'd ever blown it before at the CIA with George Tenet and John McLaughlin, because he sensed what was being done to them. He took me into a room and told me to cut about 25% of the presentation he was supposed to give out. Told me to take it out because it was worthless. He was even worried that it wasn't accurate. And then within a few minutes, George Tenet showed up with the spellbinding news that a high-level al-Qaeda operative had revealed under interrogation, he said, no revealing that he was being tortured at the time, that he had revealed significant contacts between al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein's operatives in Baghdad. This was a flat-out lie. We later learned it was Sheikh al-Libi, that he was being tortured, no U.S. personnel were even present, and that within a week to 10 days he recanted what he'd given under torture. So this is the kind of thing that was happening when I was out at the CIA for 5 days and nights with these people who are now trying to tell the American people that they were competent and they were telling the truth.
Yeah.
I think it summarizes things.
I have a couple things to add to this as you move along. Just wanted to get this is Hayden, who, by the way, has developed a tick.
Yes, somebody mentioned it. I noticed it.
Steck mentioned it, and I went looking, and oh man, he's got a twitch in his eye.
The blinking eyes, blink, blink, blink.
One eye blinking. This is stress. It is stress. I'm an expert on ticks. This is stress, and he's saying a lot of look. I think this is his central argument, and I have something to say about this precisely.
This isn't a response here about defending torture. I'm here talking to you about defending history. What we really could have used is a really non-political look at the CIA program, the one that was launched when this report first got underway. This report was supposed to have conducted interviews, hearings, and give recommendations. It doesn't have any of those. I was in government for 10 years after 9/11, and let me tell you a phrase I never heard from anybody in any position of authority. Whatever you guys do about this terrorism threat, please don't overreact. Never heard it, Brian.
And this is...
So what?
Well, but this is really what it comes down to. My view on this is that in general, the general consensus of the American citizen is we don't care.
Oh, I agree.
We don't care. We don't care if you have to shove broomsticks up people's asses, if you're going to rectally rehydrate them. We don't care. We don't care. And we've been trained as big, bad motherfuckers to go out and kill everybody, drone everybody. We don't care. We're a bloodthirsty, and we've been trained that way. We're militaristic. We're trained to kill. And in general, we don't care. And people who are like, whoa, the Democrat bullshit. Everybody here is trained to kill.
No, I don't think. Actually, the only one, there's one person that brought it up and then the guy backed off. Some guy wrote a book. He's semi-critical on hardball. Chris Matthews has this guy on hardball, and he uses the word. And Matthews is the only guy, because I was waiting for somebody to say if it's sadism, because that's what I always believed this was really all about. You had a bunch of sadists and their opportunity. I mean, you see guys like Rodriguez, I mean, he looks like a guy you don't really want to ever meet or know. And
now tell us who Rodriguez is.
Rodriguez was the head of covert operations under Hayden, and he was one of the guys that was running the torture program. And he is usually doing a double bit with Hayden, floating around, defending everything they did out of fear. There's two fears. One, which is, I think, unwarranted, which is that the United States will file charges against them because Hayden in particular lied and lied and lied and lied. And when he brought with the clip you had, the original, he's right. The original investigation was going to be a bunch of interviews and some other things, but it turned out the people that were going to be interviewed were lying constantly. They were intimidating the staff. They were spying on them. Staff.
Yeah.
What?
They were spying on them.
They were spying on them, but they were also intimidating. There were threats. There were death threats, subtle death threats that came into the office.
It's what we do.
Well, then Feinstein, who doesn't give a crap about this because she knows it's bogus, she said, this is not going to work this way. What we're going to do is get every document we can out of their office. And they took 6 million documents and read every email they could. And there's no reason if somebody in the email says, well, we killed this guy by accident here at this black site. Mm-hmm. And then they put all the details in there for some unknown reason. They do this, but they did. What are you going to ask the guy? He's just put it on the email. He's got all the information there. You don't need to talk to him after the fact. One of the memes in all this is, they never interviewed anybody. They never interviewed the people who were tortured. What are they going to say? And they never interviewed the torturers. Okay, well, you didn't, but you have 6 million documents to extract this information from. You don't really need to interview anybody. It's kind of like historical.
And here's the thing. What this really does is it destroys and chops down the American exceptionalism, because we're no better than the Japanese, what they've done. We're no better than the Chinese. We're no better than the German Nazis. We're no better than, we're just people, and we have all of our crazy crap like everybody else, but we have this nice veneer we put over it, and we expect this to end like all of our movies do. Boy gets girl, happily ever after. And it's just, even Don is not seeing, that we just suck like everybody else. We have cooler uniforms. We have.
Well, we should suck less.
Well, I think that's the idea, but we don't.
It's not. We're not going to. Well, we never will if we have all these bloodthirsty a-holes that are on Fox, and even obviously, apparently on MSNBC.
I have something.
Because these guys are just pushing, and I got a thing about this at the end, but let me play a couple more things here that are kind of interesting.
Sure.
Al Sharpton's all in on this, by the way. Even though Sharpton had to kind of tone his down a little bit, but Richard Engel seems to be the point guy for the CIA.
Now, who's Engel again?
Richard Engel, we've talked about him on the show before. We've had clips from him on the show before. He is the foreign correspondent for NBC.
Yes. Okay.
He's the guy's always, and one time, remember, he was doing a report from Paris, and he was busted for doing it where he thought he said one thing and it was someplace else.
Oh, he's a phoner. Phony.
And he was on all the shows on MSNBC. He was on the first show where he got into a beef with Ira or whatever. Ari. Yeah. He got into a beef with Ari on an early show. Then the Roundabout show came on, and then Ari was on that show too, and he got into another beef with Engel. And Engel kept saying the exact same things on every show. He varied it a little bit. Then he shows up on Sharpton, and I assume he showed up on everybody's show except Chris Hayes' show. He didn't show up,
right?
Because he had some other guy who was obviously a CIA guy, but he didn't want to battle with Hayes because it was obviously Hayes was on the warpath and he wasn't. Then he just kind of backed off, and so nothing came of that. But here's Engel and Sharpton. This is the kind of rapport you'd have with these guys, and this kind of answer you get from a stupid question. The question is a meme question, right from the talking points.
Joining me now is NBC News Chief Foreign Correspondent Richard Engel. Thank you for being here, Richard.
My pleasure. How are you?
Good. Richard, did the CIA go rogue, or was there more to it?
Well, I think in one element, I think the country went rogue.
There's no real conflict.
The country went rogue. Yeah, the country. That's what I'm saying. I agree. The country went rogue.
Well, he didn't. He did it just to to kind of push people off of the questioning.
Yeah,
that wasn't the best. I'm sorry, that was not the best talking points.
Can I give you? You're not watching CNN. Do you mind if I play a little CNN intermezzo here?
Play.
This is the report just coming out. Brooke CNN.
Oh, your babe.
Brooke the babe, who they airbrush her so well with the makeup spray paint.
Oh,
That's unbelievable. And she has Christiana Amanpour on, and two memes here. One, Putin wouldn't dare put out a report about his torture, right? And then the other one is a familiar one that we've seen recently, in which I believe.
How did they get Putin into this? Now
she's good, man. She's good.
That one up.
Yeah, she's good. She's good. She gets Brooke, my girl Brooke on CNN, and Amanpour brings in something that has been lingering around, and we recently discussed one of the cases and what we think this is really all about in international New World Order terms.
Finally, this transparency in this report, and this is something that, say, Vladimir Putin would never, ever do. Is that a possibility?
Well, precisely. I mean, that's the point, that I can't think of another government that has or would do this kind of thing, whether Western democracies over here or obviously dictatorships and authoritarian regimes just wouldn't be doing this. And I think obviously philosophically, morally, ethically, that is a strength of the United States to confront this massive wrongdoing, to put it out in public, and to try to move forward in a way that corrects that and make sure that doesn't happen. You know, when you think about it, this all goes back to the days after 9/11 when Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld cast out the Geneva Conventions and said, I don't give a you-know-what about the Geneva Conventions. These people are terrorists, and we're going to get them any which way. And to that point, though, what's happened, as your previous guest, Karen Greenberg, said, while this may or may not be strictly illegal in the United States, and you know all the tortured legality that has tried to justify this, it is most definitely a crime under international law. And so my guest, former colonel of the Air Force, the former prosecutor at Guantanamo Bay, said he would advise any Americans named in this investigation or at all tainted by all of this to vacation domestically. I mean, that is, a real worry that they may, be had up under international law for this kind of activity.
Well, two things we learned here is that she may not be compromised like 90% of the other people. That's by what she said, because there's no talking points.
Well, I think she's MI6, if anything.
Yeah, no, I would agree. She may be British, and she's not going to be going for she's not going to be reading somebody else's talking points. The thing about what she said, though, I agree 100%, and that I believe is why Hayden has those tics.
Yeah, because she doesn't want to get arrested.
Yeah, he knows. I mean, it's almost like being a prisoner in the country. Because
it's exactly what it is.
I mean, Cheney's worried about going overseas. Bush doesn't appear to care because he never traveled anyway.
Yeah, staying home.
He stays at his ranch. He doesn't care. It wouldn't bother him in the least if he was indicted in Germany for something.
I found it interesting just to see we had this case with the president of Kenya. The International Criminal Court, although they really don't care to really prosecute anyone, and they've really never prosecuted anyone fully, and as far as I know, no case has actually been won. Anything?
I thought Milosevic was one.
I think he died prematurely. Didn't he die before they finished?
So. Oh, well, that's a possibility. That's one way of getting taken care of it. Kill him.
I thought he died. Yeah. Hold on.
I'm looking at what you're talking. Go on.
Let me see. Of course, we had a couple of questions for Josh Earnest in the which I like to watch in the press briefings.
He died.
I told you,
2006.
Yeah, he died before they could fully indict him, and he represented himself, and the whole thing was a farce. So yeah, here is Major Garrett. What's Major is ABC, NBC.
Major Garrett is I believe he is ABC.
Best disc jockey name ever.
Yeah,
Major Garrett, everybody. We got traffic and weather on the 8th. Everybody, Major Garrett in the morning. Asking, of course, about the political timing of this report.
Josh, over the weekend, Senate Democrats spent a good deal of time talking among themselves about whether this was the right time to release that report. And there are many who believe this is not the right time, that it's a very, very close call, that there are a number of objective reasons why it's, as you just hinted a moment ago, never a good time to release this report. From the White House's perspective, what is the deciding factor that makes this the right time? Other than the political calendar, which suggests if Senate Republicans are in charge of the Intelligence Committee, this report will never see the light of day.
The fact is, Major, the right time will be determined by members of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. That is as it should be. It's their report, and they should make the decision about the appropriate time for releasing it.
The President is chiefly responsible for articulating and defending the security of this country, its embassies, and its personnel. He has to have an opinion on this. He can't be a simple, casual bystander, leaving it to the committee to decide entirely on its own without any guidance whether this is the best time.
Well, again, we have been, I don't want to leave you the impression that there hasn't been any guidance, right? There has been communication between the administration and the committee. Again, that is something that they have to decide, that the members of the committee have to decide for themselves. It is their report, and as you've reminded me on a number of occasions, despite the President's priority that he places on the safety and security of the United States of America, the legislative branch is...
I'm bored with him. There is, of course, something else that was going on during all of this, which was kind of pushed to the background, which we will get to when you wrap all this up. But obviously there was a $1.1 trillion spending bill with all kinds of little gotchas.
Oh, there's all kinds of crap in that thing.
Yes, and of course...
Campaign finance reform? What has that got to do with anything?
Yeah, federal land changes. I mean, there's a lot of things happening. And to me, it felt this was a major reason for the timing, is to get this done and not just get the spending bill done, but have the ability for all kinds of groovy little things to be put in there. I mean, really, really groovy stuff. I mean, we're going to invade Burma, just so you know. I mean, stuff that's in there is nuts.
Yeah, well, it was probably one of the many reasons. I think it was covering up a lot of stuff. I have another one that's kind of different. Meanwhile, even the Senate had a number of great speeches. John McCain's was outstanding.
I thought it was I agree. That was and I'm no John McCain fan.
I know the show is not a John McCain
Don
fan.
Also loved me. He said the speech of his career, and Don does not like John McCain.
Right. A lot of people don't, but everyone liked that
In
speech.
fact, who really likes John McCain? Raise your hand without talking.
Lindsey Graham, who comes up after John McCain and essentially condemns McCain's speech.
These guys are playing such a fun game.
I think that Graham is going to be in the doghouse with McCain for a while. And then, of course, my favorite one that came up, I actually like Jay Rockefeller's the best. Rockefeller had a great one. I'll bring it into the next show because he had an anecdote. A couple of anecdotes that were really good. And Patrick Leahy had a bunch of interesting anecdotes that I thought were funny. In fact, I'm going to skip to this one because he's talking about how he realized that there's the lying that was going on in front of the committee and in front of Congress, and it was getting on their nerves, which is one of the reasons they wanted to release
and
this.
Leahy is Democrat?
Yes, Leahy's a Democrat. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this was that politically motivated, even though everyone likes to think that. But this is my Leahy, who's hard to understand nowadays. And this is a long clip, but it's well worth it because this is right out of the House of Cards. This is a story that, if you can use, like, again, Leahy's lost his voice, but this is the story about how Washington really works. And this is Leahy's story about the joggers.
It's very similar to what we had leading up to the war in Iraq after 9/11. I remember being in those hearings, Mr. President. I remember listening to the then Vice President. I remember listening to others in these secret hearings and thinking, it doesn't ring true. And I stated that I thought some of the things they were telling us didn't ring true. And I remember walking early one morning with my wife near our home and two joggers coming up, calling us by name. People who had never seen the neighborhood.
Hey, asshole.
One of them said, I hear you have some questions. Have you asked to see report and names of particular report? I said, I hadn't. I didn't know there was such a thing. He said, you might find it interesting to read. I did. And then I raised even more questions about what I had read there, totally contradicted what the Vice President and others are saying. And I mentioned that to some. A few days later, we're out walking again, both joggers. My wife remembers this so well.
I'll bet.
They said, I see you read report such and such. I said, I did. But did they tell you about this other report? I said, I didn't know there was such one. You may find it interesting. And I got it. And it was obvious from that they were withholding evidence that Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11, contrary to what the vice president and others were saying. There were no weapons of mass destruction, that this did not prove to be a harmful nation to us. In fact, they were actually well penned in by the no-fly zone we had set up. But we rushed to war because we'll show them they did 9/11, even though they had nothing to do with 9/11. And now, almost $3 trillion later, look at the mess we're in.
Yeah, the thing that saddens me about all this is we are doing exactly the same right now. We are being lied to about just one small example: ISIS, ISIL, IS, who are going to get in their flying Toyotas and come over here and kill us all. We're being lied to with fake. I see no difference between these truly fake beheading videos. Beheadings happen. These videos are fake. They certainly don't show an actual beheading. That's no different from Colin Powell holding up a vial of anthrax or yellow cake or any of this stuff. So it is happening. We are being distracted from lies taking place yet again. And to me, I think I hold the American public. I think if we actually said, hey, you know what? This mofo, Saddam Hussein, he wants to ruin us by not using our petrodollar to trade in his oil. He wants to use the euro. We got to take him out. I think then the American people would be like, yeah. And it would be truth. And we'd be done with it. And maybe Saddam Hussein would have said, oh, crap, maybe I shouldn't do this. Why we think we have to lie to everybody? We've evolved a little bit, That's my feeling.
I think your feeling stems from
hope and change.
Something that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
The public at large, as you can see how easy people are fooled when you go to the store, you listen to have some people having a conversation, no agenda listeners, let's say.
Yep.
And they're just spewing the same memes that we're talking about here, back and forth and back and forth. And oh yeah, it worked. We caught bin Laden because of the torture, when there's absolutely zero evidence of that. And it was 10 years later and 3 or 4 years after the torture ended. It's like and by the way, the Feinstein report, which is what I'm going to call it, had gone extensively into the bull crap that we caught bin Laden based on torture, when in fact there's zero evidence of it. But yet, if you go and listen to these shows, it keeps coming up again and again and again. Hayden still says it, and they all keep saying it. And they're saying it a lot more than Feinstein, because who's going to read that report or the summary or listen to that one guy on Chris Hayes' show? The likelihood of catching that is zero. I mean, that's not a very popular show. And meanwhile, you listen to Hayden. I have a funny clip on Hayden on lying. You want to just drop that in?
Okay, hold on a second. I was just rereading Don's op-ed about torture. Remember I sent that to you like 2 months ago?
Yeah.
It's some interesting historic perspective in that. I'll put it in the show notes. What do I have here? Hayden.
Michael Hayden on lying.
Okay. Sorry. I was looking for just Hayden.
So when Dianne Feinstein today says you lied, is she lying?
I'll go so far as to say she's incorrect. I mean, lying is intentionally misleading someone. All right? Let me make another distinction. Telling people something they don't want to hear is not the same thing as telling people something that is untrue.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
What did he say?
I don't know what he said. These guys are all caught with their pants down.
Well, they're doing, I think, personally, I think they're doing it because they called out the troops.
Big time.
I've said in the newsletter, we have had this rare opportunity to spot the spooks.
Well, they're wearing revolving lights on their heads now. It's like spook, 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 spook. Yeah.
You can tell the ones who are the spooks, and it's so easy. They got this. They say the same things. They support. They didn't want the report. One of the things I said before is that the stupidity of this. They all say that one of the memes is, "Oh, well, none of this information is new. We already knew this.
Yeah.
We knew it. We knew it. We knew it."
Right.
So why? And then they'll say that in one breath, and then a few breaths later say, releasing this report is going to cost Americans lives. It's going to make... No, wait a minute. If everyone already knew this and it was public domain by argument, what difference does it make what you... To paraphrase Hillary, what difference does it make if you release this report? Because it's already known. How's it going to endanger anybody? And by the way, the idea of this report endangering you and me and everybody in the United States and even people overseas is nonsense. Nobody's endangered. Who's reading this stuff? I mean, it's only people that listen to our news media. This is all a huge smokescreen. The people that are putting it out there are not to be trusted ever.
Mickey always does my kind of my field work. And she came home yesterday, and she's been out and about, and she's been listening to NPR, and she's very good at getting a feel. She says this country doesn't care. No, the Americans don't care if we tortured or not. I think this is
the overlooked fact.
Yeah, we really, really don't care. What am I getting for Christmas, Mommy? These are the important things. People they do not care. This is all positioning.
Well, it's to prevent those international indictments.
Yes, that's part of it.
It's to cover stuff up.
No, so they can go on vacation. These are a bunch of guys who want to go on vacation.
Go on vacation to Wyoming. They've been there.
They want to go on vacation.
This is
really what it's all about.
They can't get out of here.
Two things I want to bring up. One, Poland. What a travesty that Poland, who immediately says, we had black sites. Give these people the opportunity to be in the visa waiver program. Will you already? Come on.
Yeah, you're right.
That's bull crap, man.
It's amazing bull crap.
Yeah. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? These people are our friends. They're NATO members. Let them come here and visit when they feel like it. If you look at the spending bill, the defense part, which is more than half of it. Yeah, Poland's all kinds of stuff. But we're going to help Poland buy more of our war material, more Polish stuff. Come on, put these people in already. And then which hasn't really been brought up, although Don mentioned this, and I corrected him, but he hasn't responded to that. I'm sure there's a reason. He says, he's flabbergasted and disappointed that nobody in CIA had blown the whistle on these practices. And I said, well, in fact, the only guy, so far as I know, who did say something about it to the press, John Kiriakou, is in jail for it. And he's a former case officer and analyst.
Right.
And he leaked this information about about torture to the press, and they threw him in jail. I haven't heard anyone talk about him.
I haven't heard anything about that. But it should be mentioned. It's probably in the report, I'm guessing. Because
I haven't seen his name in the report, no.
No, in the 500, you haven't read the 500-page report.
I read the report that they released.
You read all 500 pages?
Of course.
What, in 2 days?
Yes. I haven't slept. Look at me. I'm a mess.
Well, the talking points they extracted from that report are the ones that's all you're going to hear about, because the only chance that anyone's going to mention that guy would be Chris Hayes, and he was too busy excoriating everybody, essentially, on his show. And then now, of course, it's mostly been dropped. The whole topic is dropped.
Right. So now
let me play another couple of clips, and then we can wrap this up.
A lot of things may change by the time people hear the show. We have Brennan is going to do a news conference.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be the same talking points. America, it was careless to release the report because Americans' lives are at risk. We know that we did these. The other one, another classic was, we know we did this, but that was so long ago.
That was the Bush-Cheney regime. We're different now.
That was long ago. We stopped doing it.
We're different now. Come on. We've learned. Yeah.
And all there's anytime you hear any of that, it's like bull crap.
What are you guys talking about?
But I like the way Tory, though. I have a Tory clip where
Toure,
whatever you call him, obviously compromised, twisting the argument so that you take.
He's not compromised. He's just dumb.
It's He's compromised. Oh. You take and twist. You give somebody this is a question. This is a meme laden talking point question, and you throw it to somebody, and then they take it and they turn it to something else. It's the old, you ask me a question, I say, well, that's not the question you should be asking.
Central point is.
There's a million ways of doing this. This one's a little different, and I thought it was interesting. It's Tory twisting.
Indeed, everyone on Capitol Hill is queasy about this entire issue for many reasons. This is all about the CIA and what the CIA did, but they are not alone in this. Leaders in Congress in both houses were briefed 17 times from 2002 to 2005. They knew, and this report talks about the CIA lying or not or concealing evidence to Congress, but surely a lot of folks on the Hill knew what was going on. Should they also be held responsible here?
I think so, yes. I mean, look, members, a lot of the members will say, well, look, we were sworn to secrecy, we weren't allowed to say something. The problem with that argument is that, in fact, they do have a mechanism to say something. If they had believed that that they were being told was egregious enough, they could have just gone to the House or Senate floor and talked about it. They are given immunity from prosecution if they are on the Senate or House floor.
Well, now, if you are a senator and you heard something that you don't like in the thing, and you decide to blow the whistle on it by going to the House or Senate floor because you're immune, you're not on that committee anymore.
No, you're off. You're out.
You're kicked out of the committee, and you're probably blacklisted from a lot of stuff because you can't keep your mouth shut in a committee you're supposed to keep your mouth shut. So that's bull crap.
You might get kneecapped.
That's a complete bull crap thing. But the meme that was in there, and I've heard it a number of times, is the bull crap that they all knew. When Wilkerson makes it very clear that they didn't know. They were lied to. Constantly lied to. Yeah. So they didn't know. So they were briefed. They knew. They were briefed. They knew. No, they didn't know. And it's obvious they didn't know. And that's one of the reasons that Feinstein got so upset, because she was being lied to and she didn't expect
and being spied on.
She thought that, everybody's telling me the truth. Yeah. She was a stooge for the agencies. All the time. And during our show, within like 2 or 3 years ago, she was a stooge. Just like the Rogers character. And by the way, the new guy taking over Feinstein's spot, he's worse than Rogers.
Is that Burr?
Yeah, he's worse than Rogers.
Yeah, we looked him up. The guy's all in. Total military industrial complex. He's got a ship on his homepage.
Yeah, he's the worst.
I like ship, and we know this is going to be built. All these ships, we got all the money. It's all here. It's really good.
Here's the other one. This is the one where I'm sorry. This clip is the switcheroo and the subtle threat. And by the way, I believe when Toure said that that was a threat. Oh, these guys knew, and if they approved it, they should be in jail too. That was a threat, a threat of the senators.
Interesting.
Yes, it was a total threat. And this one here's a little more subtle threat.
Messages and cables back saying not only is this not working, it's disgusting. It said some CIA officials moved to tears watching the process from their own accounts. That's their language. That's not Dianne Feinstein's language. I got to think it takes a lot to move a CIA operative to tears.
Well, it does. And like I said, you're responsible for carrying out orders and instructions unless they're immoral or illegal. And I think at a higher level also if they're stupid. I mean, if you're a high-ranking guy at the top of the chain of command. But that still doesn't dismiss. It still doesn't reduce the stupidity of releasing the report in the first place. I think it's a political move, and if you, like I said, you run the tape forward 5 years, are the people who were involved in producing this report, are they then at risk? Mm-hmm. The people who are responsible for doing other things which a future administration might find distasteful, are they now at risk?
Yeah,
and that's it's an extremely dangerous thing to do.
Right, we're about out
of time. I understand the concern. We're going to hear from you again, and it goes to the question we asked earlier in the show. How do you say we're never going to do this again if you don't have any transparency or accountability? But too much transparency, as we know, can be a risk for our folks who are out there in battle. Colonel Jack Jacobs, thanks for your time.
The only thing you and I haven't. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that what he's talking about, and it was brought up on Hannity with Rodriguez and some other people. The threat is, well, if you're going to do that to us, then we're going to do it to you with the drones that you all approved.
Right.
Everybody approved of the drone program, and Feinstein's one of them.
That's part of it. The angle we haven't really discussed, but this touches on it. We have this feud, but we have the feuds. We know there's a intergovernmental feud, a CIA, certainly NSA. We know that we know firsthand CIA does not like NSA's crypto weenie boy, collect everything, screw everybody else methodology. A CIA agent working for a contractor, as a contractor for NSA, outed NSA. This is Snowden. We know that CIA feels, this guy, Snowden did it, valor for him. This is a form of retaliation. No, the retaliation is in here, and at a meta level. The government, what if in 20 years we really find out that everybody was spying on everybody? I think this is what's happening.
We find out?
Well, we have some actual proof. Everybody was spying on everybody. There's 16 different intelligence organizations in the intelligence community. And then there's the contractors.
Yeah. And millions. Who those two joggers were that came up to Leahy?
Exactly. Yeah, just some random joggers. It happens every day.
They could have been with an agency. They could have been with one of the contractors. They could have been with some group trying to sell something.
He could have answered.
Well, that's
wrong.
What his wife was thinking.
Yeah,
right?
of course. Hey,
my wife will never forget it. He says.
No, she saw the silencer slip out from the jogging suit. This is what's really truly sad. It is we have gotten to this point thanks to 9/11, and obviously we can all look at how that came to be, and is it just one great coincidence?
Well,
regardless,
there's plenty of evidence to suggest that we were headed this way long before 9/11. Yes, that just sped up the process.
Yeah, you just need a tipping point. You just need
what to me is the key to this is the money.
Yeah,
there's too much money.
Yes.
That's being blown on this crap.
Yes, and that is why I believe the timing is so good. If you look at what money is being, I'll just read you one line from this bill that was passed, this spending bill, appropriations bill. The way that works, they throw a whole bunch of things into it, including the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which is all of this stuff we need to pay for, and so I looked at not only this $1.1 trillion bill, but also at the Authorization Act that was folded into it. And one of the key phrases of this is buying back the sequestration. So this is all about the money. Of course it is. It is purely a financing bill. But to have this come out and obfuscate the news cycle while all these things are happening in the background, that coincidence to me is just too obvious. Special ops and terrorism are getting a lot here in a lot of money.
This is all money wasted.
Yeah, of course.
Taxpayer money. It's astonishing how much taxpayer money we have to waste, but we do it. Well, of course, a lot of it is loaned. I mean, we borrow money to the tune of 14. I think we're at 14 trillion.
No, I think we're at 17. 17.
17. That makes sense.
How much of that do you got?
I don't get any of it.
I'd like to thank a few people, but before that, I'd like to, if you're done, I'd like to wrap this segment up with some.
I've got one or two more things that are
go for
ancillary. They're ancillary. I'd rather do them after the break.
Then I'd like to wrap up this portion with some wise words from our president, who has now resorted to quoting scripture, at least what he thinks is in scripture.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you.
This one.
What he is trying to say is, hey, maybe we need to clean up our own house and not be so judgmental of everybody else around the world who are doing horrible things. This is his main message, and he's going to not only misquote Scripture. I don't think this is in Scripture. And
look it up soon enough.
And he doesn't even do it well.
And I think, good book says, don't throw stones in glass houses, or make sure we're looking at the log in our eye before we're pointing out the mote in other folks' eyes.
Bingo, boom, boom, chakalaka, boom, 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 chakalaka, boom, boom.
He said, don't throw a stone in a glass house, which I think means people in glass houses shouldn't cast the first stone. Are you okay?
Yeah, there's something like that.
Yeah, I don't believe that is from the good book.
No, I don't know that it is either.
I don't think that's Scripture. Look at the split, the log in our own, the mote of others. I thought it was the splinter in your own eye, the log in our own. I don't know, but it didn't sound right.
No,
it was unscripted and therefore unworthy.
Yeah, he's a short timer. All right.
Yeah, and with that, I of course would like to thank you for your courage and say, in the morning to you, John C. Dvorak.
In the morning to you, Adam Curry. In the morning, all the ships and sea boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, and all the dames and knights out there.
And in the morning to our human resources in the chat room, noagendastream.com, no agenda. I'm reading people. We have all kinds of different versions of that scripture in the chat room. Thank you to our artists. Nick the Rat came back strong with the art for a 676. And it was good. It was good to see a whole bunch of new art coming in. I don't know if it's because we talked about it or if a change was made, if some of the bugs were ironed out. But I personally was appreciative of seeing so much art. NoAgendaArtGenerator.com. Please check that out. And if you feel so compelled, contribute. It's a big deal. It really helps. Really helps the show and keeps us being noticed in the lineup of shows that people can choose from.
Yeah. Well, I'm very disappointed in myself here because I seem to have lost Paul Pierce's note.
Roy. Maybe it's Roy Pierce?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Paul's another Pierce. Yeah, Roy Pierce. Mm-hmm. I think Paul's a basketball player. Let's thank a few people who contributed to show 677, including Sean Alaka, 34567 from Slovakia.
Hey.
As an expat, of course, he's an expat. Expat married to a wonderful Slovak wife who I'm still trying to hit in the mouth. She doesn't
easy
listen
with that, easy.
But asks about the show after I do, and I'm halfway there. I'm sending you one of John's favorite donations, 34567, as a birthday gift to myself. I'm 47 today. This donation puts me over halfway to knighthood. I'd like to be Sir Boom Shan Alaka.
Okay.
Shan Shakalaka. Slovakia. Boom Shan Slovakia Akalaka.
All right.
Anyway, we'll do that. We won't remember that but remind us.
Yeah.
Every time I hear Boom Shakalaka jingle, it makes me think I need to donate.
This is interesting.
Yes, I think so too.
I didn't know that was it. Why is that a trigger? It's a good one. When you hear Boom Shakalaka, you think, donate.
Donate. Boom. We should have played donate in some low note. Donate.
Well, how about I try this tonight?
Dvorak.org/NA.
Boom Shakalaka. Boom Shakalaka.
Donate.
All right, what does he want here?
I need to donate. Anyway, he says, I think it's important to hold up my end-of-the-year value for value model and encourage others to do their part as well. Thank you for providing the listeners the best deconstruction in the news, as well as providing some great comedy and tech analysis as a bonus. Keep up the great work. I'd like some job karma for my wife. She works so I can stay home and take care of the cat and be an amateur photographer, and I really want to keep it that way.
Okay.
Link to some of my photos. We will go to those. And can I get a Boom Shakalaka mac and cheese montage? And
Shakalaka. Boom Shakalaka.
You slaves can get used to mac and cheese. Cheap macaroni and cheap cheddar melted together.
Mac and cheese. Living the mac and cheese life.
Mac and Cheese by Ayn Rand.
You've got karma.
You didn't do your little sound effect. There you go.
Roy Pierce, who sent us a note, I believe, from Fort Pierce, Florida, $334. And there was a note attached. Roy, you know what to do. Send me an email, john@dvorak.org, and we'll read your note next time. Because I don't know. I'm looking. I just can't find it. I don't know why. It was in the pile of notes, I thought. If I find it by the halfway point, I'll read it later. I don't think I will. Eric Hallbritter in South Ogden, Utah. Please accept my... let's give Roy Pierce a karma.
Of course. Happy to comply.
You've got karma.
Eric Hallbritter in South Ogden, Utah, $250. Please accept my meager donation. More to come as I continue the cord cutting and move to paying value for value. Thanks for your service. And I believe this is our last donor. Yes. Fortunately.
Wow, yeah. Really?
Sir Mark Wilson, the Baronet of Glasgow, 200. Short and sweet. Thanks for everything you do. Please give me an LGY karma shot. Regards, Sir Mark Wilson, Baronet of Glasgow.
Alrighty.
Or Glasgow.
Yay! You've got karma.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah, we didn't get a lot for some reason, and I was very disappointed. We expect a show coming up on Sundays, so it's a shorter week, and it's going to be hard to get numbers back to where they should be. It's less than last year for this particular show. And I want to remind people to go to Dvorak.org/NA and channeldvorak.com/NA, noagendashow.com, and noagendanation.com.
Does anyone ever go to channeldvorak.com? Do you ever look at numbers? Does anyone do that?
Eric would look at the numbers very rarely because there's no reason to unless the Dvorak.org/NA is down. And it's only in the last year it hasn't been down, I think, but once. And it was for a short period.
I just got a message in. Adam, where did the No Agenda chat room go to? You need to pay 50 cents to access the chat room now with the PayPal? What's going on?
But he hacked the chat room.
I don't know what's going on. I want to know.
That's to pay 50 cents.
I think it's a good idea. I just don't know who set that up. 50 cents.
The problem is with PayPal, you'd only get 20 cents of it.
Yeah, exactly. Please keep sending those.
Which reminds me, I did get a check. Somebody, I guess, says I'm going to, we had a debate about this, Eric the Shill, about whether I should mention this guy's name. But I decided not to. But this guy I don't believe this is that funny that people do this. But this guy who is living in, where is he? Looks like he's in Flint, Michigan. I may even know who this is. But he's going through his bank to send us a check for 9 cents. No $9. Now, it's hilarious, but, we're trying to, I think it's kind of cheesy because the bank has to spend 50 cents to mail the 9 cent check, 49 cents. I just think it's kind of, it's fine. Ho, great gag. But it's kind of chicken shit, and I don't encourage it.
Yeah, we are trying to do some work here.
Yeah, and I do, the 9 cent check. I just put it in a frame. I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Okay, so it came in.
Yeah, it came in.
I got a call from the bank the other day about some wire transfer. Did you get a call about that?
What did they call you? Oh, yeah, you're on the... Yeah, they did. I just told them to put it in. That's our wire transfer from the guy we just knighted.
Right. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was him. It was. He said it was going to come in. I pushed it into the last show.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It was
Sir GQ, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were concerned. I don't know what they were so concerned about this. Oh, I know why. The bank manager told me he had sent it to himself as the recipient.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But it was going into our account.
Right.
And he asked me, what am I supposed to do here? And I said, well, just put it in. Somebody fouled up how to do it because they had the right account number and all the crazy details. And so it went in.
Thank you to our executive producers here and associate executive producers, 2 and 2, to be precise. These, of course, are real credits. You can put them anywhere. They seem to work very well on LinkedIn profiles, gets you a lot of attention, but you can put them anywhere, or you can actually just show them, flash them, wherever credits are accepted. And unlike the phonies in Hollywood, we will gladly vouch for you.
Dvorak.org/NA.
And, of course, we always need your ultimate help going out there and propagating the formula.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Shut
I like to recommend people get a couple of credits and they can flash a pair.
There you go. You want to talk about this spending bill for a moment? Or
well, let me finish. Let me look at my list here. And there's a couple of things. I wanted to talk about one of the things that's going on that I think may be obfuscated by the by this event of the release of the report. Is this a major event that everyone has to talk about, a release of a report, and it's going to put lives at risk, and there's no reason for it and all the rest. Play the Abe clip. Now, this is a clip to me, which is similar to what we've already analyzed with South Korea, but play Abe and what's going on in Japan, which I think is much more important than anything to do with old reports.
And amid what Abe is calling a changing security environment, his cabinet approved a landmark change in policy. In July, they decided to reinterpret the constitution to enable the country to use the right to collective self-defense. It allows Japan to defend a closely related country under attack, like this scenario where Japan's maritime self-defense force ships defend a U.S. naval vessel. Past leaders interpreted the constitution to mean Japan cannot take such actions. But Abe says the country must change course.
Making all possible preparations will in itself serve as the power to thwart attempts to wage war on Japan. This is deterrence.
Okay.
Does anybody find this a little disturbing?
Well, there's two things. One, we already knew that the Constitution was being changed, so they could defend themselves, and we're all over that. And in fact, while that clip was playing, I was looking in the report for I know there's a specific Japan portion.
In the bill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that figures.
Yeah.
The whole idea, obviously, to anyone, I mean, I think everyone should be on board with this idea. We need to sell more stuff.
Yes.
What we sell the most of is bombs.
Rockets.
The Japanese, they're going to buy from us, not the Chinese or the Russians.
Here is let me see. No, the funds available, title, obligated architect, engineer, blah, blah, blah. No, I thought there was something else in here. I have to scan through the bill for a moment. So the idea is that we want Japan, obviously, to start buying their own stuff, and we'll be happy to help out, obviously. What we have. Rate of overtime pay. Oh, it's filled with it, John. Hold on a second. Let me get all this. Rate of overtime pay for Department of the Navy employees performing work aboard or dockside in support of the nuclear aircraft carrier forward deployed in Japan. Kind of reaffirming here, sense of Congress reaffirming security cooperation with Japan and the Republic of Korea. Two places, by the way, who now are going to be customers. South Korea, we are going to stop the operational command of their defense. We're handing it back to them. And we, of course, want them to pick up that operational command and, buy our stuff. The sense of Congress that increased cooperation on missile defense among the United States, Japan, and the Republic of Korea would enhance the security of allies of the United States in Northeast Asia, increase the defense of forward-based forces of the United States, and enhance the protection of the United States with regard to threats from the Korean Peninsula. So the Secretary of Defense shall conduct an assessment to identify opportunities for increasing missile defense cooperation. That's code for sales. With the United States, Japan, and Republic of Korea, evaluate options for enhanced short-range missile, rocket, and artillery defense capabilities to address the threats from the Korean Peninsula. This kind of tells you that at least for the next period that is now being financed, I presume the bill is going to pass, we will see North Korea being very, very dangerous, and us helping ourselves and our allies, Japan and the Republic of Korea, with some sales. That's what it's all about. You have to
kind of feel sorry for the North Koreans because they're a punching bag. They're being vilified as a sales mechanism.
Well, isn't that what the whole axis of evil was to start with?
Well, it looks like it in hindsight. We're selling a lot of stuff. This is what Eisenhower warned against.
Yeah. No, we play that. You talk about it. No one cares.
Nobody cares. No.
The rundown of all of the money.
They will care when all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the billions of dollars for the Japanese fleet, Yokota Air Base. It's just so much money going to finance the sales. It is a sales job. Yeah. Yes, this is the military-industrial complex, not just Eisenhower. I'm sorry?
That is
best. At its finest. Its finest hour.
Finest hour of selling crap to people that don't need it.
They don't, but they think they do because
it's because that's how sales works. A good sale. I mean, you can sell somebody something they actually need and want. They'll buy it.
Yes.
And there are people that are in active war zones that need to buy stuff because, of course, we may have created the active war zone, but whatever the case is, it's not much of a sales job. But when you're during peacetime, to get people riled up enough to buy stuff is like you have to create bullcrap. You have to lie to them and you have to convince them they need these things. And we're outstanding.
Sadly, yes, we're very good at it. Did you want to make another point?
No, that's my only point. It's a sad point to make.
I looked at this bill.
You think if we did something, if we made something other than the armaments, these companies that make those crazy little vehicles that cost $2 million and they have a machine gun on the turret, and they try to sell them to local police departments. These kinds of things. This is terrible. This is not doing anyone any good.
Well, the president and his cronies, and we have talked about it before, but I think we have to revisit it. I'd like to do it right now. Are trying to change our future. So we will not just be, that's probably not true. Trying to at least not create soldiers and salespeople of weaponry out of the youth, and we are doing that by celebrating our hour of code.
Oh, that.
Woo! Hi, I'm Leah.
And I'm Tanya.
And we're lucky enough to be studying computer science.
Hi, I'm Tanya.
We think it's terrible that 90% of schools don't teach it.
They definitely didn't offer it at my high school.
Thanks. So we're trying to make this video to show that anybody can learn. We want to get 10 million students to do the Hour of Code.
Hour of Code.
Hour of Code.
The Hour of Code.
Hour of Code. Hour of Code.
Hour of Code.
How do you get him to get to the sunflower?
This is so good. Wait for the lines of code.
To do some actions.
I got it. Hey.
And then we'll run it and see what happens.
Amazing.
There we go.
You just wrote your first program.
I wrote it?
Yeah. This is the code that you just wrote.
Very awesome.
I thought code was FBI hacker symbols and stuff.
A little bit of problem solving, a little bit of logic. It's like instructions.
Programming is a lot easier today. Don't just play on your phone, program it.
All right. I just wanted to get that in. Don't just play on your phone, program it. Now, I am, of course, a big advocate of today's kids should learn how to set up a web server, email server, some basic things. I'm not so sure that programming your phone is exactly what we want our kids to do, but the president is all in on this, as is Hollywood, as is Silicon Valley, and here's his 1-minute speech on the Hour of Code. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Last year, students and teachers across our country celebrated Computer Science Education Week with an Hour of Code. They learned new skills, programmed games and apps, and realized that while no one is born a computer scientist, becoming a computer scientist isn't as scary as it sounds. With hard work and a little math and science, anyone can do it. For this year's computer...
Note, these are all Common Core competencies. And this is being presented as part of Common Core because it's the same people who are pushing this.
Computer Science Education Week, more than 48 million people have already signed up. And we're hoping even more of you will get involved. Don't just consume things. Create things. Take an hour to learn more about the technology that touches every part of our lives. That's how you can prepare yourself with the skills you need for your future. And it's how you can help prepare our country for the future as well. America's always been a nation of tinkerers and builders and inventors.
Is that true? We're a nation of tinkerers and inventors?
I think if you go to Ben Franklin, you can make that assertion and say that he was the first of the tinkerers.
Brought the world everything from the light bulb and the telephone to the iPad and the internet. Woo! So whether you're a young man trying his hand at programming for the first time or a young woman who's already hard at work on the next big thing, we're counting on you, America's young people, to keep us on the cutting edge. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And happy coding.
All right.
Yeah. Get out and do some exercise, kids.
Go to code.org. I just want to review
Bill Gates' thing, too. He's got
this is all Bill Gates. The Microsoft Youth Spark.
Code.org.
Code.org.
Pay money for
and
that.
Go to About. And, of course, it's a nonprofit. Of course.
Server not found.
Code.org?
That's what it's... Oh. Code.org.
That won't work. So let's look at the leadership. It's the co-founders of this is Hadi Partovi, and I think these are X something or other guys. But the donor list is really what I find interesting. Platinum supporters, $3 million plus contribution. Ballmer Family Giving. Little picture of Steve Ballmer right there. Google, Microsoft, and the Omidyar Network. Yeah, I really want my kids involved with these outfits. The gold supporters, $1 million or more. That's Ali Patrovi and Hadi Partovi. I guess these guys are either brothers or they're married. I'm not sure. And they're from I Like, Link Exchange, MySpace, MSN.com. They're kind of, I guess they're Microsoft guys. Or ancillary Microsoft. I don't know. Bill Gates,
Facebook guys.
Big donor. John and Ann Doerr. John Doerr.
It's the usual suspects.
John Doerr, he would ask me about what he would do up with his Adam, what's your recommendation? My 16-year-old daughter is all effed up. What should I do? Code, I think. Teach her how to code, John. That'll help. Sean Parker Foundation, Salesforce. Then, Amazon. What do we have here?
Okay, he was Microsoft. You're right.
Yeah, see, I told you.
Yeah.
This is a very... First of all, it's really the Microsoft side of the world. I don't think this is very good. It's not balanced for sure. And you go to the partners. This is what is happening here. And we've talked about this before. These people are changing the curriculum. They're they're helping public schools go out of existence, bringing in charter schools, and they want kids to learn how to code so they can be the next cheaper, I might add, cheap coders. Yeah, cheap coders for these companies. And right at the top, Amazon, Apple, Best Buy. What do we have? Electronic Arts, Dropbox, Facebook, Google, Juniper, Khan, LinkedIn, Rovio, Yahoo, Zappos. And it's okay, but let's not kid each other about this. And I'm getting all these notes from producers of ours who are saying, hey, my kid is now involved in this, and they're pushing this, and this is coming home with them, an hour of code. And okay. I don't like the fact that it's completely driven by business. Is that what we want for our education? Is that how we want it to run?
Well, didn't we already discuss this with the idea that it was brought up in one of the tutorials, lectures about Common Core, where it's like a pipeline.
Yeah, it's the pipeline. Yes, the pipeline. Yeah, the pipeline.
It's a pipeline to a job with
like Cisco in Chicago. Cisco in Chicago. They've opened up. They're paying for the charter schools. They opened as many charter schools as public schools closed. And now these kids are a pipeline. They have the pipeline into the...
What I think is funny about the charter school thing, which we need to always do that special episode on discussing in more detail, is the idea that you go into a community and you skim off all the smartest kids in a school
and kill the rest.
That's what they would like to do.
It would be
skim off all the smartest kids, offer them the opportunity, quote unquote, to go to the charter school, and the parents, oh, yes, of course. And then you go to the next school, and you skim off a bunch of kids, and you either send them to the first or the second, and then another charter school, and you leave the public schools with the worst kids. And of course, now
Right,
that there's not as many of them, you close a school, and then you put those worst kids in with the other worst kids. So you have by then they're gangs.
You've got a bad bank, a slush fund.
And then so you have a school of horrible students that aren't very poorly managed, let's say. They have issues that aren't being addressed in any way. The school sucks. They can't teach anyone anything. And you end up with a kind of a mudsill class of students that can't read or write. And they, of course, go out and become criminals or do what they have to do to get out of that situation, which would usually be to get out of town, which they can't do. And you end up, and then when the government comes along and says, well, these charter schools are doing so much better than the public school. Public school stinks. We have to fire everybody there. And then they put in a prison warden and they get it over with. It's actually a conduit right to prison. And so they can make license plates. The whole thing stinks if anybody can't see it. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I should get a pet peeve thing for that.
Yeah.
I wasn't much of a peeve.
John C. Dvorak's pet peeve of the day.
Thanks.
You're more than welcome.
Begging for pet
just a quick rundown, since of course I did go through it of the spending bill. It's just some funny things in there. The funniest thing, of course, is here is John Boehner with his promise from I think 2010.
The American people want leaders who will listen. They don't need any more lecturers coming to Washington. They've ignored the cries of outrage from the American people by forcing a vote on bill after bill without giving lawmakers enough time to even read the bills. And if I'm the speaker next year, we're going to get the reform movement moving again in the United States Congress. One of my first orders of business would be to post every bill online for at least 72 hours before it comes to the floor of the House for a vote.
Obama promised in 2008 or whenever.
Yeah, everyone promised that. Yeah. People forget. I don't forget so quickly. But I wanted to make sure that everyone knew Boehner had also promised this. So we don't have that. And I guess it's going to be voted on today. It was hard for me. I had to skim certain places to get through it while I had the torture report as well. So just a lot to go through simultaneously. A few things that are of note, I think that we should just discuss. In general, campaign finance, which you already brought up. This is interesting, where this is now going to change a donor who, to date, I think the limit was $32,400.
I thought it was $6,400.
Could be. It could be. Yeah, I could have that wrong. But now you'll be able to donate almost 10 times as much. Up to 300. I think it's the 32,000. That's the main. Maybe it's per household. You can do 64.
Well, whatever. It's beside the point. They've made it so you can get more money.
Tenfold. Really. Tenfold.
It's good for the only way it's going to keep newspapers in business.
All of that goes.
It's a positive thing.
It's very good for the media.
Yes.
That's where all that money goes. Newspapers, television. That is
Radio.
the media appropriations portion of the act. The kind of overturn, or really the biggest change of the original Dodd-Frank Act, which you'll recall was brought into existence because we never, ever, ever wanted to get into a situation again where we would have such a financial crisis. We had the Great Recession, worst ever since the Great Depression, which President Obama saved us from. So he needs to veto this. I don't know if you can do line item vetoes, but he needs to veto the change where, they tried to make this change earlier. Now it's been solidified. We actually tracked the original bill where the risk for derivatives, swaps in particular, will be burdened on the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which is a contributions from the bank, who will never, ever have enough money to shoulder a meltdown of the derivatives trading. Which is, what is it? What, $300 trillion if that really all came apart?
It's outrageous.
Yeah, it's all just papers and people promises. Yeah,
but then, of course, the liability of $300 trillion is out there, but the likelihood of it's more likely to just turn over than it is to cash out unless we expect another meltdown like we had in 2007, 2008. Then you might have some problems, but the assumption is always made that, that theoretically you could have this liability come to the fore, but the likelihood is pretty low.
Of a meltdown of the derivatives market?
Yeah.
Okay. That's partially what happened with the reinsurance and why AIG had to go and Lehman Brothers.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, they're gone. And now, of course, the mechanisms are still in place, which is what bothers everybody. But it just, I don't know. I think if the economy collapses, it's going to be for something else. I think that may be a contributing factor.
Nice to see that we did have some space to add $7 million to the Justice Department's budget for the new anti-heroin task force. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do. Yeah, anti-heroin task force.
What's wrong with the DEA?
Well, this is for the COPS office. What are the COPS is? I forget what the acronym is. The money will be used as part of a competitive grant program for drug enforcement, including investigations and operations to stop the distribution or sale of the drug. Okay, sounds to me like this is actually to enhance the sales pipeline. If you want to stop the sales, how about the poppy production, heroin production, Afghanistan, never been as high ever.
Is now at record-breaking levels.
Yeah.
This is just reported. More heroin's coming out of Afghanistan than ever.
Yeah. Nice, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we know why. It's because that's what we're there. That's how the CIA gets that extra money, so they can own all the media.
Yep. Funny, of course, everyone mentions Joe Biden again has a pay freeze. It's so sad. Can you imagine being singled out in this bill? No more money for the vice president. It happens every single time. He never gets a raise. Libya, no more U.S. aid until the Secretary of State confirms the country is cooperating with ongoing investigations into the Benghazi attack. And there was a lot of, there were more hearings going on about that, which I watched. Nothing really worth mentioning.
No, what's his name? Trying to squeeze something out of these guys who are sick of testifying. They're never going to get anywhere.
District of Columbia will be prohibited from legalizing marijuana for much of the coming year. We were waiting to see what would happen with this. This would block the Justice Department from interfering with state-level medical marijuana measures and prohibits the Drug Enforcement Agency from interfering with industrial hemp production. So there's a little bit of movement there, but not really anything super interesting. I saw there was, there's lots of stuff, approval for military cooperation with Burma. I've been kind of waiting to see what's going to happen up there. And I'm not quite sure. There's no real numbers necessarily attributed to it, but it does flow into that. Whistleblowers. We have language in here. Ensures the government contractors are not barred from reporting allegations of waste, fraud, or abuse if they sign a confidentiality agreement. And the Occupational Safety and Health Administration will receive a $500,000 increase for its enforcement of existing whistleblower laws. Yeah, that's really going to help. Running the White House. Yeah, let me see. Let me just see the military side of that. What did I have here? I made several markups and notes. We have, special ops and terrorism. Extension of authority for support of special operations to combat terrorism. Kerry was also up at the Hill asking for a very specific authorized use of military force. He wants a new one for ISIS. And I think that they're trying to fold that into this. Maybe that's why it's being delayed at the moment. He wants one. I did not clip anything from him because I know, he's too boring to play on this show. It's very interesting how he's stating that the president...
I think if you speed him up, it might help.
No, it's not going to help. The president clearly has, under the 2002 AUMF, has the right to go after ISIS, but now they want one very specific, which... specifically broad, which allows the use of military force anywhere in the world, not just a particular region, just anywhere. Which is very disturbing. We have some transfer of land ownership, which seems to be a quid pro quo kind of, where there will be 8 new national parks, 245,000 acres of land designated as new national parks. In a swap, 110,000 acres of federal ownership for economic development will be created, such as mining, drilling, and infrastructure. I do not know exactly where that's going to take place, but it seems like somebody's getting a good deal out of that. And as I said, the main thing really here is buying back the sequestration. That is literally what it says in the defense portion of the bill. Just have to turn everything back, and every news report you can find says exactly that. This is it. The sequestration ends here.
And we have to realize and remember and remind people that sequestration was a cutback
on increases.
Yeah. So they've got the same amount of money they've always had to blow, but the increases were pulled back.
Yes.
And now the increases will be back in play. So back on the old treadmill. So the amount of money going to these to the military for training will be again back to where it was, which is lots of
it's a lot of
money. A lot of stuff that goes on the surplus market.
A lot of drone financing.
A lot of drone financing. Also, a lot of stuff that gets pulled out from these battlefronts and given to local police.
Mm-hmm.
All comes from that sort of wild spending.
I wanted to throw back to something that I said that I had difficulty convincing you about, and I want to give it another go if you're okay with that. This is about Ferguson and the result of this, the body cameras, and what I believe is federalization.
Right. You think the body cameras are an abomination?
I think I do not think it's a good initiative. I think what is happening is we are seeing a federalization of our police forces. First, the president...
Exactly how you get from body cameras to federalization is my other counter argument. My side of this are people who are just tuning in.
And this is what I would like to talk about. I think I want to take another go at it. How we go from body cameras to federalization.
Okay.
First, let's listen to a little bit of the language which is going on. The president did a couple interviews with BET, Black Entertainment Television. I like that interviewer a lot, by the way.
Yeah, you should have heard what Tavis Smiley said about it.
Yeah, I did hear that. Now, Tavis Smiley hated that. I know.
Well, Tavis Smiley doesn't like the president because he won't do his show, apparently.
Yeah, but Tavis Smiley, he got in a fight with Don Lemon. I'm like, I'm not going to waste our time talking about that. I like this guy. I like the way he asked questions. He sounded like Eddie Murphy when you close your eyes, which made it kind of funny. But here's the Telemundo guy. And I did not like this line of questioning.
On another issue, the killings of Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin clearly shows that we don't live in a post-racial society, as many expected when you were elected.
Well, I didn't expect that. You probably didn't either, but...
But many people expected you probably to do more on race relations, dealing with white privilege. Do you get angry with this?
Dealing with white privilege. So now it's just out there. Now it's just out there. It's part of the, we have white privilege. So this is not, it's gone beyond racism. Now, the way I read this, it's not that some people are racist. White people have a problem. White privilege. I do not like this, where this is headed in the way we're in the discourse. Here is the representative from the Center for American Progress. This is a Democrat Party funded outfit. Her name is Aisha Moodle Mills. She's on MSNBC, and wow.
I'm thinking for 2016, I mean, the fact that Republicans have such a big block of voters in the South, do you think this is going to be a problem, for example, for Hillary Clinton or any other Democrat who runs in 2016?
Well, sure, the South is going to be a tough nut to crack, but I actually disagree with this idea that the reason why Democrats have completely lost the South is because it's about policy exclusively. The reality, and every single poll shows this.
Here comes facts. The reality. Every single poll shows it. This must be truth. Fact.
Is that Democrats have completely lost the South because white people are running away from Barack Obama and this African American man who's occupying the White House. Mary Landrieu only got something like 18% of the white vote. You're seeing that more and more and more white people are voting for Republicans. And I talk about that because we can't discount the idea of the racial politics that are playing out down there. People hate this president, and Southerners hate this president more than they've hated any other Democratic president.
Yeah, he's black. We hate him. White privilege. Which is, you might as well say white supremacy. Come on, just say it.
A couple of guys have.
Of course. This is ridiculous. There is no evidence white people are running away in the South because he's black. There's no evidence of this being the reason. It is very, very dangerous language, and people are starting to believe it. People are starting to buy into this because, hey, it's on TV all day long, so you can control the minds. You can control people the way they think. Okay, now we're going to move into what I think is where this is heading, and it started out with Eric Holder. He's the guy. He doesn't get a lot of the mainstream media attention when he does his little speeches. He's very boring, very dry. You don't even want to listen to a clip. But he has spoken about creating the Institute of Justice within the Justice Department, and I actually call it the Department of Social Justice. This is what, so justice, what we need an Institute of Justice, which will deal with racial issues. And the Justice Department can do some legal things when it comes to police forces and cities. Yes.
I want to mention a meme that's going around that may relate to this.
Okay.
And you see it on TV. There's a bunch of actors in the black and white, and they're saying things one after the other about social justice and all this sort of thing. And somebody comes out and says, the opposite of poverty isn't wealth, it's justice.
Wow.
Now, and I've heard this before. I didn't think about it until I saw it again this last time, and I wasn't going to bring it up until you brought it up. But the opposite, so it is an so justice in some funny way. To me, if I had a choice between wealth and justice as an opposite of poverty, I'd take the wealth and then fight to get the justice. But okay, let's just say that justice, I don't even know what that means, by the way. It seems like a non sequitur. How is justice the opposite of poverty? You could be in poverty and have plenty of justice, and it doesn't do you any good in terms of making more money or getting wealth or getting out of poverty, let's say.
Well, these are the means.
So it's assumed that justice by in it of itself will bring people out of poverty, because the only reason they're in poverty is because of some injustice that connects to white privilege.
Yes.
And this is an anti-poverty program that he's suggesting amongst the cognoscenti who know that justice is a code word.
Very good point. We now have to keep our eyes open for this particular meme. This justice is the antithesis. Is it antithesis or the opposite? Opposite of poverty. Very good. But I believe that what is happening here is a move to control, certainly control policing across the country. Just so people understand, it may be different where you're from. In the United States, the Austin Police Department is run by the city of Austin. It may have connections with the city of Dallas or the city of New York, but it is not Washington, D.C. who runs the city of Austin. They just don't run it. It's our police force. The sheriff fits into this somehow, which we've talked about as a very important guy in the politics and with how things actually work with law and order, and that is our system. With the federal funding of these body cameras, I believe we are starting down a path that will federalize the police forces. And I'm going to try it again with you, and then I'm going to have 4 clips to accentuate this point. First of all, listen to what the man says. We've been through this a million times. The things President Obama says, you got to listen really carefully, because they know very well what he's saying. who writes it for him. However it comes out, it's very, very smart. They're very, very meticulous about, I told you this 3 years ago. Here's the interview with the BET where he starts to go down this road.
Well, and progress means different things to different people. So there are those that want body cameras, there are those that want civilian review boards, and much of this is not a federal mandate.
Most of it is not federal, but the federal government can have an influence.
Okay, so have an influence. To me, means he wants to have that, an influence.
Well, we fund a lot of jurisdictions all across the country.
Follow the money. Yes, we've already been funding police departments with this militaristic stuff, which police departments have now come to depend on, whether they're using it or auctioning it and use the money. This is a federal funding, and when you control the purse strings, you have leverage, as the president will say himself.
And if we can identify best practices, then for us to be able to say, you need to adopt these best practices, and if you don't, then perhaps some of the funding that's available around some things that law enforcement cares about become less available.
This is exactly how Common Core was put in place. If you don't accept the Common Core, then the billions of dollars from the No Child Left Behind and the START programs, you may not get that funding. So what do you want to do?
We're going to provide more to folks who are doing the right thing, and we're going to be investigating folks who are not doing the right thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Not just not give you, we're going to investigate you. If you don't take the money by doing the right thing, we may investigate you.
I think that becomes an important part of the leverage that we can exert.
And does that happen through federal legislation, or does that happen through utilizing the DOJ as a tool? We saw Eric Holder in Cleveland yesterday, and the dissent decree and the supervision agreement, I think, was a good one that said the city of Cleveland, here's what you've been doing wrong systemically, and now we're going to hold you accountable. Is that going to become the rule, or does there ultimately have to be federal policy?
Let's stop for one moment here and switch over to Eric Holder with the mayor of Cleveland, the police department of Cleveland. Horrible, racist, profiling, got to stop them, got to get them on board. And they have now come to an agreement which will turn into a legal term, a consent decree with the Department of Justice. Here is the announcement with Eric Holder and the mayor of Cleveland.
Since March of 2013, the Justice Department has closely examined nearly 600 use of force incidents that occurred between 2010 and 2013, including the incidents involving the use of lethal and less than lethal force. We have determined that there is reasonable cause to believe that the Cleveland Division of Public Police engages in a pattern and practice of using excessive force, and as a result of systemic deficiencies, including insufficient accountability, inadequate training and equipment, ineffective policies, and inadequate engagement in the community. Now, fortunately, today I can announce that the Department of Justice and the City of Cleveland have come together to set in motion a process that will remedy these issues in a comprehensive and in a court-enforceable manner. Now, under Mayor Jackson's leadership, the city has acknowledged that the department's findings that raise issues of importance to people really throughout this community. And together, we have agreed to a statement of principles that will lead to a court-enforceable consent decree, including an independent monitor who will oversee the implementation of sustainable reforms, assess compliance based on objective measures, and ensure that robust new policies and practices will result in more effective and constitutional policing.
Yes, okay. That is a legally enforceable agreement between a city and an independent state, now directly under enforcement by the Department of Justice once they get the consent decree drawn up and signed. Back to the president.
You know, let's look at what the task force generates. I mean, I have confidence. You know, we've got a police chief, we've got a criminologist, we've got civil rights leaders, we've got activists as part of this task force process. Let's see the specifics that they generate. But I will tell you that the Department of Justice already has authority. So in the Eric Gardner case, Eric Holder, I think properly said, we're going to initiate a civil rights investigation. The Cleveland case you just mentioned, we already have the ability to take a look.
This is pretty much the par for the course, just like the authorized use of military force. We already have the proper authority to do this under a civil rights investigation. I don't even know if you call it a civil rights investigation. I believe it can just be an investigation about breaking the law. I don't know why it has to specifically be called a civil rights investigation. We already have the authority for that, but we will go to individual cities and states, and we will get a legally binding agreement where we oversee what you're doing. And we also have all the money that you need. Finally, the president is just going to come out and say it.
I've said it before. The vast majority of law enforcement officers are doing a really tough job, and most of them are doing it well and are trying to do the right thing. But a combination of bad training in some cases, a combination in some cases of departments that really are not trying to root out biases or tolerate sloppy police work, a combination in some cases of folks just not knowing any better, and in a lot of cases subconscious fear of folks who look different. All of this contributes to a national problem that's going to require a national solution.
There it is.
Folks, before you drag this on any further,
I'm going to end it right now. But go ahead.
Well, before you drag this on any further, first of all, yeah, I'm sure the feds would love to run all the police departments if they could, because it's more money to them, and they like to get as much money as they can. They can take the local money and put that in their coffers and waste it like they do everything else. And it's a known fact that they've done this. They try to push their way into states like they do with the road programs. Oh, you're not going to go along with this program? Well, then we'll cut off your road funding. They do that. They screw the states that way so they can push them around, even though they don't know quite what to do with this marijuana thing, even though in that bill you're talking about is discussed in the Washington, D.C. marijuana proposals. Like, we're not going to give them any money because it's not what we want. And this experiment of federalizing all the local police departments was actually done in Sweden in 1965, where they did exactly what you're describing. They took over the whole place, and it turned out to be a fiasco. And they had to federalize that in a federal management sense, where they had to give local, because the feds can't. This is like Macy's having centralized buying. So when they started establishing centralized anything, which is federal government doing it, national police, you always screw up because you don't know what's going on in the local areas. You don't know anything. You're just idiots. You're just robots. And that's what always ends up happening. It always gets pushed back because of that. Macy's, with its centralized buying, results in me being able to go to Florida and buy some really outstanding wool suits, because nobody in Florida ever buys these suits, but the centralized buyers put them there anyway. And none of this that you've gone on and on about has anything to do with the cameras. This is a fallacy argument, what you would call post hoc, where you see one thing leading to another and you hook the two together as though one has something to do with the other. Your real argument, which is that the federal police, we're going to have a federalized police, demands these cameras, because if we don't have cameras on everybody, all these cops, is going to be completely out of control. Thus, the cameras are needed. I am not seeing the connection between cameras and this, because this has been going on forever, and the cameras are an element that has nothing to do with it.
Despite the fact that they are being funded and called for by the central federal government. That
yes,
means that,
despite that, that's where you get the fallacy argument of post hoc. You're connecting two things that have nothing to do with each other.
They're going to come for you first.
I'll have a camera too.
Here is the promise the president made, which I have just not forgotten.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.
Enjoy that.
Came long before the cameras. The cameras may be a defensive mechanism against this, and that's one of the things he promised when he got elected, was to set up shop, which a lot of people believe is the TSA, set up shop as have a national police or national brown shirts. I don't even know what he was talking about when you try to break it down. But yeah, so what? This is old. This is not even new. It's a long desired situation that the Democrats, and I don't know why they want this, but it's not a new situation. And it's got nothing to do with the cameras. Your connection to so in other words, I'm not buying any of it in regards to the cameras.
Okay. All right, take away the cameras. I'm okay. Take away the cameras.
Okay, I'll take away the cameras. And then, I agree with everything you say. But
okay, all right, then fine. Then I am wrong about the cameras.
That is my assertion.
Then I'm wrong. It's good. I'm happy to be wrong about the cameras.
Yeah, but
I do not.
It's good to go with the National Police.
No, I'm all against this. This is my point. That this cannot happen. And what is happening is because of the racial tension that is being amplified to an extreme degree. This is why the president feels very comfortable at saying, we are coming for you, and we're going to create legally binding agreements with you so we can control you with our money and with the court system. We agree on that?
Yeah. No, I think that's always been the trend. They've been trying anyway. I don't think they're as good they're not as good at it as they'd like to believe.
Right. Well, I certainly hope these cameras do not contribute to going down that road. Let me put it.
You just won't get off this camera thing. You are stuck on the. You just. What is it with you and these cameras? There's something else going on.
I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, no, I've gotten that impression.
I'm from the future.
I don't. In this case, well, if you're from the future, then you must know the cameras are everywhere.
Yeah, I'm all for less cameras.
What are you going to do about it? It's already happened.
I'm for less cameras. Is what I'm saying.
I'm not a big camera fanatic. As you know, when I buy a monitor, if it's got a camera on it, I put a piece of gaffer's tape right over the thing, right over.
Mm-hmm.
I do the same thing with the phone camera.
I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't like the idea of cameras that are part of a federal government program. I'm okay with. I'm more okay with cameras when individual police departments go, okay, we're going to put cameras on our guys, and some do, and some have success, and some haven't. I don't like the idea that why does that have to come from the federal government? Why?
It shouldn't. I don't think it should either.
And so there's always strings attached. This is my point. This is why I don't like this part. I don't like that. Seems like you're starting something.
You've already got half these police departments buying all the crap that TSA was quote unquote giving away.
They're not. I thought they were the 1033 program. I thought it is gifted.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, it's gifted. So whether they sell or they buy or they gift or whatever, it's still strings attached.
Yeah, not a fan.
No, I'm always been against from the beginning the militarization of the American police departments, and to the point where the American police departments aren't even police departments anymore. As it was pointed out in The Wire when one of the cops was lamenting the problem with law enforcement is that nobody polices. All they do is practice law enforcement. Law enforcement is different than policing.
Yes.
Law enforcement is, you stepped across, you broke the law. You're in jail for that. There's not policing. Policing, you say, hey, don't step over that line again. You're going to get, that's a violation. That's policing, and that's what should be done. You never see any of that on the street, especially with the blacks that are, oh, you broke the law. You broke section so-and-so. Or you see these indictments where they list everything. Oh, you didn't have your shoes tied. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. and you indict the guy for all these things. When the guy, was a shoplifter. He took a candy bar. He resisted arrest. He did this. He did that.
Speaking of, moving on. Speaking of police, and I always laugh at these kinds of stories. We're going over to Euroland for a moment. The people in the lowlands are always so surprised about Texas, and you live there and you have guns, and it's crazy. And right now there is a crime wave of liquidation happening in the Netherlands by the so-called macro mafia.
Well, I don't know anything about this.
No, this is great. Now, the details somewhat sketchy, but people are being killed left and right. Cops are taking people's cell phone video and pictures away from them at the scene of the crime, And people, of course, have no recourse against that in the Netherlands. You have no rights. You can't.
How about if you're in the Netherlands or any place else for that matter, you set up one of those situations where you, as you're recording a video, it's sending it to a server.
I don't have any details on that, but you would think that is also possible. But people are just saying, hey, the cops, hey, man, they took my phone away, made me delete everything. Apparently, so I think the cops are possibly involved in this whole thing. And the Dutch police, the Justice Department, has had its issues in the past with many different situations. What the police are saying is, well, a big shipment of cocaine was either stolen or someone didn't deliver or something happened. And now it's
cocaine, not heroin?
Cocaine is what they're saying. Well, and remember that a couple weeks ago when I was over there, somehow heroin has been laced, or white heroin being sold as cocaine, and tourists are dying because they're thinking, hey, a little toot for the snoot, and then they stop breathing because they inhale this heroin. And there are signs everywhere saying, you won't be arrested for doing drugs, but please, be careful. There's, bad coke out there, and it's actually heroin, and you can die. So maybe that's why. Maybe they're substituting heroin for the cocaine, and of course, heroin is much cheaper, much cheaper right now because it's we have overproduction. The cops are saying this is no longer about the missing cocaine, so they clearly know what's going on. But now all the kingpins are so worried they're going to get killed, they're deciding to take out the other guy first. Some innocent woman was just riddled with bullets in broad daylight the other day, trying to shoot somebody else. And it's right.
She was trying to shoot somebody else?
No, somebody was trying to shoot another person, and they wound up riddling her.
Oh.
And it is Moroccans and Antillians. Is that if you're from the Antilles?
I like Antillian.
It's like reptilian Antillians, and also autochtone Dutch people, so native Dutch people. And they have a name now, the Macro Mafia, MOCRO, the Macro Mafia. And this is taking place, and the cops say we don't see this lightening up anytime soon. How does that happen with the no gun laws and everything so strict and all organized and all ordered? How does that even happen?
That's the big question. That's the fallacy of, use the word again, fallacy of gun control. Yeah, you don't get a gun, but everyone else does.
Yeah.
Police have guns, criminals have guns, but you don't get one.
Let's take a quick break here. I want to do some other stuff.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
Before we
have very few people who help us.
I was going to say, before we thank the few people who donated, I have two things to mention. One, we got a lovely note from Vicky Poole. Did you get the handwritten note in the P.O. box? Poole? Vicky Poole, who is, I have her note here. She's a dame, and she sent, I think she sent one to you as well.
Didn't I read it on the last show?
Did you read it? We might have talked about
That's
it.
That's the one where she made a typewritten version.
Yeah. I'm sorry. We did talk about that. I liked it because I finally got my envelope with this, the sealing wax and her her dame ring in there. We also got a note from Angela Cumbera. Dear Adam and John, I wanted to let you know I have received a note and gift card from a No Agenda listener. They sent it anonymously, but the envelope had ITM written all over it, and the return address was 33 Bingo Boom Shakalaka. So I knew it came from the No Agenda family. A very nice gesture. I thank them for it. They must live in my area or somewhere near, as the note came through Phoenix, where all of our mail goes through as well. The No Agenda listeners are super people. After what they did for my husband, as you know, her husband passed away. Tom, and he was made a knight posthumously. After what they did for my husband, now this, you should be proud. You have such a giving and terrific audience. I'm proud to be part of the No Agenda family. Merry Christmas, Angela Cumbera. So that was very nice. The crowd is
fantastic.
It really is.
Although when I was looking at last year's spreadsheet for the same time, I noticed a lot of names on there that I'm not seeing anymore. I think we lose people.
Oh, I'm sure we do. And I think your assertion is right. I think people get sucked back into the news, the mainstream news. It's become somewhat compelling. Rectal rehydration. Come on.
It's you watch the news, and if you're not if you don't have to do this show or you don't listen to this show, which tries to identify the gotcha memes, you could easily just drift back into just a life of a sinner.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I'm a sinner. I'm a sinner, I tell you.
That's the life of a sinner. You're just watching these crazy guys. They all work for somebody else, a double dipping. God knows how much money some of these people make. And that, by the way, when I saw all this crap, all these guys with the same talking points, I realized that's why some of these people got these jobs. I mean, it's like, was it Bernstein Woodward, who was in Navy intelligence, and they moved him in because somebody suggested he worked there. And there's a lot of no talents, especially at Fox, that get paid quite a bit of money.
But they look good. They all got the right haircut.
Well, some of them do. I think a few of them. I'm not going to. This may be a little bit going out on a limb. I think some of the women at Fox are just really good-looking trannies.
Wow, and you complain about my cameras.
Rick Olson in Ellensburg, Washington. 100. You can figure this out for yourself, by the way. Just think about it when you see one of these. And go,
it's a very disparaging name, by the way. You transsexual, transgender.
Right. Well, I'm sorry. I used that word. I won't use it anymore. In fact, I won't discuss it anymore. $199.99 from Ellensburg, Washington. Rick Olson. But when you look at some of these women, just think, is that possibly a guy?
Well, Ann Coulter, I've always...
I don't think so. Oh. I wouldn't put her on the list. I'm going to cut to the chase here, says Rick. The value your show has provided me these last few years of listening exceeds my monetary donations to this point, and for that I apologize. Anyway, he becomes a knight today.
Yes.
So, and now we have dun 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 dun.
No, wait a minute. He becomes a knight. We should at least do his request here. I mean, it's not like the list is so long, the segment's going to take forever.
He came at $199.99 because he didn't necessarily. What he does ask.
He says he wants a de-douching, he wants an Atlas Shrugged, and a Karma. Can we do that?
Yeah, hit it.
All right.
You've been de-douched.
By Ayn Rand.
Okay.
You've got karma.
I figured that would be okay.
You didn't cut off.
Lords, dames, knights, slaves, and elites, please be upstanding for another donation from the Grand Duke von Pelsmackers.
I was ready for it.
I guess you were. I was wrong. I was expecting you weren't ready for it. 12714.
Well, Eric has done something nifty. He's
I see. He's highlighted.
He's highlighted.
He put a big arrow,
flashing with the blink tag.
The blink thing, which I think still works on a lot of.
I don't know if the blink tag works on every browser.
12714, Belgium. He's our Grand Duke of Belgium and France. As of today, an appropriate donation. Of the BPITU, especially 12 plus 7 plus 14 adds up to, and I get nothing here.
I think it would be 33.
33.
Yeah.
I think not. Keep up the great work.
Thank you very much, Grand Duke.
Thank you, Grand Duke. Donald Borowski, who is WA60MI.
73s.
Borowski's 12345, and he has sent a note in on United Federation of Planets stationery.
What is this?
So he sent a note in on the United Federation of Planets stationery, and he's a ham and obviously a Trekker. So we know what.
Okay, it's a Trekkie thing. I got it.
Yeah, it says Starfleet Command. Sir Atomic Rod turned me on to your show. Aha.
Oh, there you go.
Via his podcast, Atomic Insights.
That's right.
I have listened to half a dozen shows, and now I'm hooked.
Nice.
Here's my contribution to keep it going.
88s.
John Knowles in Murfreesboro. I never know if I ever pronounced that right.
Murfreesboro?
Murfreesboro. I don't know. $111.11. That's in Tennessee. Daniel J. Breck Jr. in Pasadena, Maryland. He mentions that No Agenda is excellent, informative, and entertaining. Nothing else like it.
There's the good-looking trannies at Fox.
You just have to wonder. And one in particular is finally, I'm just thinking, it's interesting. Once you get it in your brain, you can't,
No, really? All right.
Anonymous in Leechburg, Pennsylvania, 8910. He got around to canceling his Audible subscription and diverting the money to a better cause. It's a makeup for time between when I decided and when I finally set it up. Sorry for the delay and Merry Christmas. IntelliArmor LLC in Portland, Oregon. By the way, I wanted to go to this site to see what it is they do.
Would it be, let's check it out.
8728.
IntelliArmor.com?
Yeah, IntelliArmor.com.
Is it Armor A-O-U-R?
And he makes here's the thing, you got to get ready for the button. Mark McAvoy's birthday was yesterday, and he's a douchebag.
Oh, boy, okay.
Douchebag.
IntelliArmor. Advanced screen protection. No, that's not at all what I thought it would be. And that can't be the right one. Hold on, what is this?
Yeah,
it is. IntelliArmor, yeah.
Sir Brian William in Streamwood, Illinois, 73.
Yep, 73s to you.
Aaron Heath in St. Agnes, South Australia, 63. Some job karma for him at the end.
Everybody will get some.
My Small World Designs, Prescott, Arizona, 5678. And there he is, Sir Atomic Rod Adams himself.
Yay.
5555.
He has a birthday.
Yeah, of course.
Birthday coming up, yeah.
Excuse me. He says he liked the pot and kettle segment about how two large countries use the media to spread propaganda messages to the public. Please add me to the birthday list. You're on.
You're on, Rod.
Michael Astfolk, I guess. Ostfolk. Berlin, Deutschland, 5533. We love the Berliners. There's enough Berliners, we should do a meetup. Kevin Dill, Charlotte, North Carolina, 5510. Sean Gates in Poyap. Puyallup is the way it's pronounced, by the way. Puyallup, Washington, 5510. Poyap, that's good. I'm thinking of the wine. Puyallup. David Grisanti in Denver, Colorado, 5288. William Bowman, Port Hueneme, California, 50, and these are all 50s. Paul Vella in Milton Keynes, UK. Antonio McMullen, parts unknown. David Pete, Aubrey, Texas. Jean van der Laan in Assen, Drenthe. Kyle Kinzel in Green Bay, Wisconsin. He's got a green bat on here, which is a good name for a town. And finally, last but not least, David Michael in Edmond, Oklahoma. And there is a note from Kyle, it says, and yeah, I think there is. Where might it be? No. I don't have Kyle's note is over there with Paul's note or Pierce's note.
I mean, what do you think, Wolf Blitzer?
Can Wolf help?
Wolf can't help.
Wolf can't help.
So you can send me another note and we'll slip it in. I did have a note from some anonymous person, which I should read.
Okay.
This is the letter D. He said, first I heard about No Agenda was when John was a guest on This Week in Phones. It says.
Are you on This Week in Phones this week?
Yes, I'm on This Week in Phones.
Oh, good. Good.
When I made the switch to No Agenda, it opened my mind to the more critically, not simply dismiss the media. Think more critically, not to. Okay, I can't read it. It's impossible. But he's a very nice guy, and he says, "Best of luck." That is it for our show here of 677. We hope it picks up a little bit, or a lot, actually.
No, it should pick up more, yeah. This is.
But I will make.
So what you're saying is year over year, we're down over last year.
On December, all the December shows are down from last year. So either people are all partying at Christmas parties, which I don't see any evidence of, or they're depressed,
broke,
or the medium sucked them back in.
I think I'm there with you. I'm thinking a lot of people have been sucked. They'll come back, but please hurry.
Well, they're not listening, so you're telling them to come back is not going to do any good.
Well, I'm hopeful about their philandering ways.
Maybe it's possible that you can only take so much of the No Agenda show.
Oh, I'm there.
Dvorak.org/NA.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs. You've got karma.
As your karma, everybody, thank you very much for your support. We say happy birthday to Shauna Laka. Shauna Laka, boom, shakalaka laka. He turns 47 today. Sir Atomic Rod Adams turning 55. Happy birthday, Sir Rod, to you. Sean Gates says happy birthday to Muhammad Ahmad of Sumner, Washington, turning 24 today. And Scott Hamilton says happy birthday to his son Matthew Hamilton. He turns 18. Happy birthday. And many best wishes from all your buddies here from the staff of management of the best podcast in the universe. And then we have Rick Olson, who came in with $199.99, and he has been saving up for his knighthood. And we're very, very happy that he has reached the table that is round, and we're going to induct him with a ceremony and get John's. Whoa!
Dropped it.
Did you? Thank goodness. All right, good. All right, Rick Olson, come on up, man. Thank you very much for your support. In the amount of $1,000 or more, that brings you into the coveted round table of the knights and the dames, and I hereby, at your request, pronosticate you Sir Rick, Knight of the No Agenda Round Table. For you, we've got Hookers and Blow, Rent Boys and Chardonnay, Malted Barley and Hops, Poppies and Taylor's Vintage Port, Bad Science and Perky Breasts, Cannabis and Cabernet, 3 geishas and a bucket of fried chicken, Hot Pants and Booze, Wenches and Beer, Rubenesque Women and Rosé, Vodka and Vanilla, Bong Hits and Bourbon, Sparkling Cider and Escorts, and of course, we always have the Mutton and Mead at the end of the list. Go to noagendanation.com/rings, and we'll make sure that we hook you up. And please tweet a picture. We've had a couple people doing that, so we can retweet. It's nice. It's a nice little package you get. And it's real.
It is.
It's real. This is, we have peerage, we have a map, we have a system, and one day all shall be uncovered.
Right, and when we take over the place.
Well, someone's going to have to take over the place. I got a note. Whenever we start talking about the Van Allen belts and all that stuff, and
the Van Allen belt. Here we go.
Well, I was going to say that NASA has discovered a new radiation belt.
Another one
outside of the Van Allen belt, or at the edge. And it was funny to read that they have they actually addressed the Van Allen belt issue. This is Orion went through the Van Allen belt, which of course was only previously done by the Apollo missions when they went to the moon. And there's specifically about the Van Allen belts. I put it in the show notes. It's a good their version of why this is not a hoax. They even say it. Some people think this is a hoax. We never went through the Van Allen belt. I don't know why you have to protest it that much, but okay. Radiation levels traveling 15 times farther into space than the International Space Station will take Orion beyond the radiation protection offered by Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field. In fact, the majority of EFT-1 will take place inside the Van Allen belt, clouds of heavy radiation that surround Earth. No spacecraft built for humans has passed through the Van Allen belts since the Apollo mission, and even those only passed through the belts because they didn't linger. I just thought that was a cute way of saying it. So there's your scientific answer as to why it was okay for the Apollo missions, because they didn't linger in the belts. They did not linger. Okay. They went through. And then I got this email, secure email. This is an anonymous. On the last show, you were talking about the missing Saturn V blueprints. Now, this is part of what makes the original moon landing so complicated.
Yeah, this is what makes you suspicious, among other things, and it baffles me Because on the one hand, while you're suspicious about this, you have no issues with about moon bases. So
no, because we have those now. This is just about the original moon landings.
Okay.
I presume that we have figured out how to not linger in the belts. But no, this is just a part of the all the original moon landing video material has been erased, unfortunately. But also all of the blueprints disappeared of the actual rocket, the lander. All of this stuff is gone. It's just sad. It's sad. It doesn't help with people who are of conspiratorial-minded thinking.
No, I wouldn't think so, because it seems to me, and I'm not of the conspiratorial mind, except when it comes to some of the women on Fox. It seems to me that this is one of the most historic events in the history of mankind. This is like Christopher Columbus.
I mean, we can save every tweet, yet we don't have the blue. I should say Saturn V, I should say, not V5. Yeah, you should have corrected me on that. The Saturn V.
I kind of zone out. Yeah. Go on.
Sure you do. About 15 years ago, I was working on an IT contract at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. This is where the Saturn V was designed. The IT department had just moved into an old building that had previously housed engineering. The story I was told is that when engineering left to move into the new headquarters, they left behind many old filing cabinets, including the kind used to store large drawings. You know the kind. IT needed the space and called engineering to come and get the cabinets. Engineering said the cabinets were no longer needed and could be disposed of. They were hauled out to the dumpster. A few weeks later, a frantic engineer came back asking the whereabouts of the old cabinets and said they contained rocket and spacecraft designs from the 50s and 60s. Too late, they were gone. I think this answers the question.
That is the biggest bogus story I've ever heard. Oh, yeah, just throw it away. No, I don't think so. And by the way, it's not as though people don't do this. And I'm reminded of a friend of mine who used to work at Dell Publishing. And so he's going home, and he's noticing that he goes to, or he's at a warehouse or something, whatever the case, he's noticing these guys taking piles and piles of artwork and throwing it in the dumpster. Original alley-oop cartoons, all kinds of book cover cartoons, or not cartoons, but oil paintings that they use on book covers, like the Hitchcock mysteries and the rest. And so he asked the guy about, he's throwing this stuff out. We know just what good is it? So he scrounged as much of it as he could to fill his trunk and his back seat full with what probably amounts to a couple $100,000 worth of stuff if he was to auction it off. He gave me about 4 pieces, including a nice Hitchcock cover.
Cool.
And it's just as this happens. It's like I was at Tech TV, and I was walking around, and there was a big, giant box of tapes. And I looked at it, it said Silicon Spin. I said, what's this? He says, oh, that's the first couple of years of Silicon Spin. Why? What are you doing with it? We're throwing it out. And the TV people are notorious for throwing stuff out. And so I said, I'll take it, and I took it home. It's in the basement.
Yeah, one day you're going to be found delved under a mountain of crap, including these tapes.
It's in the basement. Anyway, the point is that it actually doesn't surprise me that someone would be so careless, not thinking clearly. For example, the artwork. I suppose you couldn't sell the Dell artwork because it was probably still owned by the artist. Most people steal stuff from artists, and you can't really sell it because the artist owns it. So they just throw it out instead of giving it to the employees or whatever, just giving it to bums on the street. I don't know what you do with it. Whatever the case is, I think it's possible, but it seems to me that if I was working anywhere around there, I'd grab those plans personally. I'd love to have some old 19...
No, I think they just did not know that they were in there. I don't think anyone looked at the plans. They just tossed them out.
That's probably true.
Dominique Strauss-Kahn. Maybe
that's the end of the story?
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. You just mock me. It's all right.
I didn't mock you. I thought I was trying to explain how this could possibly happen.
Yes.
Now, why they erased the tapes of the moon landing, even though it's one of the most
You said it yourself.
Events.
Television people are careless.
They're careless.
Yeah. Dominique Strauss-Kahn is set to become head of the National Bank of Ukraine.
Holy crap. 10-point find of the day.
You think anybody needs to be made whole somehow? Hey, man.
I will put you back at the bottom of the rung here. There.
Hey, man, we're really sorry about that whole maid thing that didn't really happen. But we had to get Christine Lagarde in.
Yeah, you went
Fifi Lagarde. Yeah, we're really sorry.
Punishment.
Yeah, it could also be Viktor Yushchenko, which would be even funnier. But we'll see. Poroshenko, the president, has now instructed Ukrainian Secret Service to crack down on media outlets criticizing the country's government because, of course, they are receiving funding from Russia and have a special anti-Ukrainian mission, which is the neo-imperialists who want to destabilize Ukrainian state from within. And they can only be anti-state elements and spies of Kremlin's fifth column.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it does. It does sound right. We have our own interesting changes here in our media space. It's become an obsession just to keep looking at what Pierre Drive My Car Meteor is doing, and we already knew he had hired Andy Carvin. He is
I wanted to bring this up. Your buddy.
Yeah. He had, of course, Andy Carvin, who calls himself a news disc jockey by tweeting and retweeting tweets, which to me is completely useless. I really don't, he was heralded. I think he took the NPR buyout. Wasn't there a buyout he had? They were trying to get rid of people.
I have no idea. It's possible.
So he has started a social media reporting team for First Look Media, which is now being hosted on Medium, and they're calling themselves Reportedly, reported.ly. And because it's on Medium, they have an RSS feed, so I'm
good luck. They haven't got anything on there.
No, there's nothing on there, but they're introducing themselves. He's hired this team, and this is Marina Petrillo, who on December 9th said, "The View from Italy," and talk about how great this is going to be. There's no other place I want to be right now. And this is what really brought... What?
I thank my friend from...
What are you doing?
Nothing. I hit a button.
Oh, okay. Andy put together a team that relies on professionality, experience, and a passionate love for social journalism, which we're calling native journalism, but also on diversity and a touch of quirkiness, community service, context, discovery, presence, narration,
This guy really has a line of bullcrap.
Here it comes. Being a flexible, experienced, and caring team will hopefully enable us to be where we are more needed. We're a startup. We're a band.
Holy crap.
I know. You're not a band. You are not. Repeat after me. You're not
a band of people.
No, they think that they're rock and roll, you see.
Yeah, no, that's what he does.
They're rock and roll. Yeah. It's total bull crap.
Well, this is the kind of thing that happens when people get so kind of self-aware in a megalomania.
In the Netherlands, we have a saying for this. You like the Dutch sayings, don't you?
I do.
Over het paard getild.
Which means?
Lifted up so high to get on the horse that he's going to fall off on the other side.
Well, I'm going to point the finger at some, I think the top show on Fox now is Megyn Kelly's news show. She took over from O'Reilly as the top vote getter.
Oh, okay. Ratings getter.
Ratings, that's what I meant. And so she's getting kind of full of herself in a very awkward way. And I have this clip. I'm going to still set it up. It's the Megyn Kelly off script. So she is now decided, I guess, to become either a rap artist or a performance artist.
Megyn Kelly?
Yeah, or she's trying to be a word jazz. It's like word jazz. So she's going from one segment to the next, and I know this wasn't on the prompter, and here's her talking.
Already the president's taking some heat for praising the transparency of this move. This is an important milestone in transparency. This is the, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan guy. I'm not an emperor. I'm not a king. I don't have the authority to do this immigration move. Obviously, we didn't alter the Benghazi talking points, and we could go on.
Oh, she's got a cadence going on. I like it.
Yeah, it's rap.
This is good. I'm a bitch. I'm a lover. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. She can do that. She can do this.
What is the point of this? And this is really straying away because she was trying to do a little more straight news that, kind of with a lot of interviews, kind of an interview-oriented news show. Yeah. But now she's throwing in stuff like this, which is just lopsided, partisan, horrible. She's really gone off the deep end. And she barely smiles anymore. She's just got this grimace.
Grimace, yes. You know what's next? Her looks are going to go. Yeah. I think it's already happening. Her hair is getting a little
her hair
stringy.
This last time was stringy. You're right. It was very stringy. Yeah, and I don't think it's her fault. I think the makeup people. And she's got to be
they hate her.
Hell on wheels. She shows up.
It's the makeup. Yeah. Oh, man, it's not Kelly again. Oh, jeez.
Here she comes.
Trying to make her look like
you guys didn't do a very good job with me last time.
Yeah, something like that.
I saw it. Yeah, and then she'll go after the crew, and it'll light her funny. Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, she's going to look like hell on the TV.
There was a really cool report that came out that was there's some other data that I'm still looking for that is involved with this particular report. And I heard about it on NPR, and I had to clip their version of the story. One of the things that is always interesting to me is how, when it comes to vaccinations, and I want to make sure everyone knows, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I am.
Oh, this is a story we should have gotten. I should have gotten a clip for this.
I have a
clip. If you're going to talk about what I'm going to talk
about. I'll tell you. I think there's certain vaccines that are unnecessary, and certainly the amount that is pumped into kids early on that certainly begs a lot of question. And now, of course, the CDC has come out and said, anyone who's going to make these Ebola vaccines, we are indemnifying you. But in general, the pharmaceutical companies are indemnified. And what is always interesting to me, and we've discussed this before, is if your children are vaccinated and they're all good to go, and there is an unvaccinated or poorly vaccinated child at school, why is that child banned when you shouldn't have to worry because your kid is vaccinated?
Herd immunity,
right? You would think that is not a problem, and this report really made me think about what is going on here and what the truth is and where we really are at with contagious diseases.
Researchers asked parents this question. If they knew a quarter of the children in their own child's daycare was not fully vaccinated, would they take their child out? Research scientist Sarah Clark was surprised by the answer.
Over 70% of parents said that they definitely or probably would consider doing that.
A big deal, she says, since changing daycare isn't easy for the parents or the child. And here's another surprise. 41% of parents said children who aren't up to date with vaccines should be excluded.
Kind of like public school. If you don't have them, you're not getting in.
So that's the basic. There's the numbers. If I found out that 25% of the children were not vaccinated, I'm taking my kid out of daycare. And kids should not be allowed in school if they're not vaccinated.
But for many parents, the bigger surprise may be this. The fact is, federal health data show that 1 in 4 children actually aren't fully vaccinated, not because parents object to the vaccines, they just didn't make it to the doctor on time.
Whether it's due to not being able to get an appointment, or family life just got too hectic, or they didn't really know they were supposed to come in, well, those 4-month shots get delayed until, let's say, 5.5 or 6 months.
It's the 1-year mark when vaccines are most often missed after routine well baby visits aren't as regular. Vaccines like DTaP, diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, measles, and chickenpox. Clark says the findings should start a much-needed conversation between parents and daycare providers about vaccine policies and how to change them to make sure children stay healthy.
I think this is a watershed report. So the 25% of children not being vaccinated, not because parents are anti-vaccine, because they just forgot, didn't have time, maybe whatever the reason is. That's an average. You look at Montana, 80% of children are under-vaccinated. This is rampant. The children in the United States are really not up to the vaccination level that people believe they are, yet we don't have all these crazy outbreaks of all this stuff going on. To me, this means only one thing. It truly is a government program to ensure that you are shot up with whatever they want you to be shot up with. And it's not effective right now, but it's going to come. The numbers are just astounding. Chicago, 60% not vaccinated properly, under-vaccinated. Why aren't we all dying?
Well, the herd immunity would be the reason. Whatever the case, I think it's an interesting. I thought you were going to bring up the fact that this latest flu vaccine not only doesn't work, the CDC. Whoops! Oh shit! Damn it!
What happened?
I just dropped something.
Something important?
Yeah, the preamp. Oh. Anyway. It also drops the mic, and I got to reset it.
Oh, so we can wait.
It's a spit in a prayer. The CDC apologized for the shot, and the Italians took the shot off the market.
Yeah, we had that on the last show. We had the
report. I know we did. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did I mention that everyone I talked to who's got the flu
is sick? Had the shot
just before they caught the flu?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes, you did.
Well, I'm still hung up on it. Okay, I've got a better story.
I mean. Are you insinuating something that maybe they tried to make us all sick?
I just think they're careless because ever since this is the problem with indemnification.
Yes,
and I think it's the overlooked problem of indemnification. And this is why we've brought this up on the show before. The reason that I don't think it's a good idea to use gamma radiation to irradiate our food supply, even though it would eliminate E. coli and a lot of other things that are killing people.
This is pasteurization, you mean?
No, gamma radiation, where you would go way beyond pasteurization.
Who is doing this, and where is this being talked about?
Nobody's doing it because it's been talked about to death when they started to introduce it in the United States. It's being done in Europe and other parts of the world, but it's not pasteurization. They've got these big machines, and then they gamma radiate the product as it goes through, which is harmless to it. It's not a radiation that makes it radioactive.
Okay.
It just kills everything. And it would kill
everything.
E. coli and sterilize everything. It sterilizes stuff. And it would kill you if you walk through it. And but it's an old process. It's not unknown, and it's used in some countries for certain things. But I know people in the United States, oh, God, you're radiating. It's radioactive. Right. You're going to kill it. So they're all skittish about it because they don't understand the method, because they're all so science-oriented. They believe in global warming, but they don't get this. But it's another argument to be made. And I'm against it, not because it's not a great idea, but because once it's done, nobody gives a shit after that. They're going to be throwing the meat in the dirt, the dog shit will be in there.
Yeah, who cares?
Because it'd be the word, and this is what happens when you indemnify, and this is a form of indemnification if you think about it. It purifies everything. You indemnify the vaccine maker, so nothing they do is everything they do, and no matter how crappy the product,
right.
Too bad.
Yeah.
And so they're all indemnified, so you end up with these mediocre products. They're coming out because they don't have to worry about it. Who cares?
And by the way, there is a fund, which the Federal Register publishes it, I think, every month. There is a fund that pays victims of vaccination incidents. So it's kind of a double whammy. The government pays for that. And there's a lot of money. And there's a lot of, of course, you have to die.
Drug companies are all scot-free, so they don't even have to do any quality control.
Right.
Yeah, live vaccine. I said, what? That batch is all live. Screw it. Who cares? What difference does it make? Get it out. We got to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that would be my pet peeve.
Yeah, I
have one clip. This is one of the funniest stories because this poor guy, who's a professor, I guess, at Harvard Business, is going to be the GOAT. His life's going to be ruined, hopefully. And this is the story that was on the Today or the Good Morning America, whatever the one on CBS is. And this is Edelman versus the Chinese.
It doesn't need more setup, or is that what it is?
No, you'll get the setup.
Oh, I know about this guy. Yes, I know. He is a Harvard professor. Yeah.
The Boston Globe reports on a Harvard associate professor's food fight. Benjamin Edelman threatened legal action because he was overcharged $4 for Chinese takeout. The restaurant admitted its website prices were outdated. Edelman fired off at least 5 emails to the restaurant. He wrote, "I suggest that Sichuan Garden refund me 3 times the amount of the overcharge." Later, he wrote, "The more you try to claim your restaurant was not at fault, the more determined I am to seek a greater sanction against you."
He's serious.
Yes, Mr. Edelman needs a chill pill.
Yes, he's very serious.
Yeah.
What she needs a what?
Chill pill.
Oh, a chill pill. Okay, I didn't hear what she said.
What a douche.
Now, why? I've seen this story and I ignored it.
No, I couldn't possibly ignore it. It was too funny. But the guy is like making a federal case out of a $4. He could have got the $4 back, I'm sure, by walking back. But
no, I think funnier are all these emails that come out of this clear promotional move by, obviously not by Sony, whoever is in charge of promoting the Seth Rogen Christmas movie about
Kim
Jong-un. You know,
yeah.
I think that part's work, but now it's just the emails to bring down really just a couple of main people. Say that Angelina Jolie is a minimally talented, spoiled brat. This is the way producers and movie studios and
we
television
do this on the show.
Just so you know, this is exactly what. But by the way, where are the women yelling misogyny? I mean, if this is the culture of Hollywood, which it is, why is no one up in arms about this?
I think they're all giggling. I don't know, because whoever decides that something should be targeted didn't target it. Feeling sorry for Sony. I'm not sure exactly what.
It's not Sony. It's the what is it? Rudin, Amy Pascal. Scott Rudin is a big time producer.
Yes,
and of course they brought in the racism. Okay, here I'll just read this to you. Pascal, according to BuzzFeed, which it's a promotional outlet, that BuzzFeed. Pascal, who is the co-chairman of the studio, asked Rudin for advice before going to an Obama fundraiser hosted by DreamWorks animation head Jeffrey Katzenberg, particularly what she should ask the president at this, quote, stupid Jeffrey breakfast. The answer was, maybe he'd like to finance some movies? I doubt it, was the reply. Should I ask him if he liked Django? With Rudin replying, 12 years, or The Butler, or Think Like a Man. So the racial undertones are all in there.
Yeah, that's Hollywood for you.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Make the biggest fuss about this stuff when you get a hold of these memos. I think maybe more of these big companies should be hacked and get those memos.
I enjoy it.
Laugh riot.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I think people should know that this is exactly how Hollywood operates. And I would say absolutely racist.
Yeah, racist, sexist.
Yeah. Bingo, boom, shakalaka.
Yeah, it's totally bad.
Okay, I think that's about all I have. It looks like Brennan said no proof torture produced useful info. That's interesting.
Oh, Brennan took that side.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's got to make the old ticks on Hayden go crazy.
Oh yeah, no,
this is be blinking and winking and shaking. And
this is war, baby. Now it's all out war. The only other thing,
I did hear one argument from one of the Stooges that bought off that there was a couple of arguments that actually got my attention because they were kind of creative. And this one guy, and I can't remember which of the many shows that these guys are on, what show he was on, but he says, "What? None of this makes any sense. Why would they be doing this for all those years if it wasn't working? Which was just a logic. It was just a logical question.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And, of course, my answer would be, well, it's because they're sadists and they just like
doing it, yeah.
You know, they like beating guys up. There are people out there who are genuine sadists that like to beat up and kill people.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my response to that. But if that response wasn't available, it's, what are you going to say? I don't know. Maybe they're just wasting money. There's the $81 million contract a psychologist got, and who knows? I think it was a waste of time.
Well, I'm sure there will be some crises that will probably be averted just in time for Christmas, and we'll all be witnessing that. Try not to get yourself sucked in. It's really not good. And we will be here to...
don't believe anything. The listeners, the best listeners we have are the ones that say, I don't watch mainstream media anymore.
That's pretty much...
You want to watch something, go watch the congressional hearings. You get a lot more out of that.
And there'll be some repeats, but there's definitely some good ones on C-SPAN currently. So, and this will continue. And, we'll have more on Sunday show. Please remember to support us. It is the way the system works for us, our value for value proposition, Dvorak.org/NA. And I hope you weather the storm there, John. Everything...
it seems to be calming down, at least for now.
Okay.
I think the worst of it's over for us as it heads east.
Excellent. And we'll see if...
hanging from my roof.
Coming to you from FEMA Region 6 here in the capital of the Drone Star State. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from Northern Silicon Valley, I'm John C. Dvorak.
We'll be back on Sunday doing it live at noagendastream.com and on the podcast right here on No Agenda.
It was worth it. It was worth it.
Boom shakalaka, boom shakalaka, boom shakalaka, and boom shakalaka. That's how we go. That's how we roll.
That's all, folks.
And that's the story.
Adios, mofo.
The best podcast in the universe. Dvorak.org/NA